Have you ever wondered about the Vatican? That ancient fortress of faith, sitting in the heart of Rome, claiming to be humanity's spiritual guardian. But what if I told you that behind those sacred walls lies the world's most dangerous secret? What if the Vatican isn't just protecting souls, but hiding truths that could shatter everything we believe about our past? For over 2,000 years, the Catholic Church has positioned itself as the keeper of divine knowledge, the bridge between heaven and earth. But beneath the Vatican's marble floors and golden domes lies something far more sinister. 85 kilometers of secret archives. Miles upon miles of shelved documents, ancient manuscripts, and forbidden texts that have never seen the light of day. Think about it. Every confession whispered in darkness. Every heretic burned at the stake. Every scientist silenced for asking dangerous questions. Every ancient civilization's wisdom that mysteriously vanished. Where did it all go? The Vatican claims these archives contain nothing more than administrative records, papal correspondence, and theological debates. But if that's true, why the impenetrable security? Why are only a handful of researchers allowed inside each year? Why do they examine every note you take before you leave? And why, after centuries of supposed transparency, do they still refuse to open their doors completely? What if the Vatican isn't protecting humanity from dangerous knowledge, but protecting dangerous knowledge from humanity? What if they've been rewriting history, suppressing discoveries, and controlling the narrative of human civilization for millennia? The truth is darker than you imagine, more shocking than any conspiracy theory, and it's all hidden in plain sight, locked away in the world's most secretive library. Are you ready to discover what the Vatican has been hiding about our true history? Because once you see behind the veil, you'll never look at organized religion, human history, or your own existence the same way again. The rabbit hole goes deeper than you think. This isn't just another story about religious secrets or ancient mysteries. This is about the systematic manipulation of human knowledge by the world's most powerful and enduring institution. The Vatican isn't just any organization. It's the oldest continuous government on Earth, with an unbroken chain of authority stretching back 2 millennia. Think about what that means. While empires rose and fell, while kingdoms crumbled and nations were born, the Vatican remained. Watching, recording, collecting. For over 2,000 years, they've been the silent witness to humanity's greatest triumphs and darkest moments. And they've documented everything. Every medieval manuscript rescued from burning monasteries. Every confession from dying kings and queens. Every scientific discovery that threatened religious doctrine. Every archaeological find that contradicted biblical timelines. Every political conspiracy that shaped the course of nations. All of it flows into the Vatican's vast archive system, where it disappears behind locked doors and sworn oaths of secrecy. But here's what should terrify you. The Vatican doesn't just collect information, they control it. They decide what gets preserved and what gets destroyed. What gets published and what gets buried. What becomes historical fact and what becomes forbidden knowledge. If the Vatican's complete archives were ever released, entire academic disciplines would collapse overnight. The history of Christianity would be rewritten. The timeline of human civilization would be shattered. Our understanding of ancient cultures, scientific progress, and human potential would be turned upside down. We're not talking about minor corrections or interesting footnotes. We're talking about fundamental lies that have shaped how billions of people understand reality itself. The Vatican has had the power to edit human memory, to delete inconvenient truths, and to manufacture consensus about the past. Consider this paradox. The same institution that claims to preserve sacred knowledge is the one that has systematically destroyed more books, silenced more scholars, and suppressed more discoveries than any other organization in human history. They call it preservation, but what if it's actually the opposite? What if the Vatican's true purpose isn't to protect human knowledge, but to control it? What if they've been curating human consciousness, deciding not just what we're allowed to know about God, but what we're allowed to know about ourselves? The stakes couldn't be higher. Because if they've been lying about our history, what else have they been lying about? And more importantly, what are they planning to do with all that hidden knowledge? Deep beneath the Vatican, past the tourists and the gilded halls, lies a fortress of knowledge that makes Fort Knox look like a public library. The Vatican's secret archives, now diplomatically renamed the Apostolic Archives, represent the most restricted collection of human knowledge on Earth. Picture this: 85 kilometers of shelving. That's 53 miles of documents, stretching from floor to ceiling in climate-controlled chambers. To put that in perspective, if you laid those shelves end to end, they would stretch from the Vatican to Florence. We're talking about millions of documents, some dating back over 1,000 years, all locked away from human eyes. But here's what makes this truly sinister: getting inside is virtually impossible. Each year, only a few dozen researchers worldwide are granted access, and the process is more like applying to join a secret society than conducting academic research. You need multiple letters of recommendation from established scholars. You must specify exactly which documents you want to see. No browsing allowed. You're forbidden from photographing anything. Every note you take is examined before you leave. And vast sections remain completely off limits, even to approved researchers. Those who have made it inside describe an almost ritualistic experience. Multiple security checkpoints. Long corridors lined with ancient wooden cabinets containing handwritten indexes older than most nations. Reading rooms where silence is absolute and every movement is monitored. The atmosphere isn't scholarly, it's oppressive. What little has been revealed tells a disturbing story. The Galileo files, partially released in 1992, showed that the Church's persecution of science was far more systematic than previously known. The Templar documents, leaked in 2007, revealed that the Vatican knew the Knights Templar were innocent of heresy charges, but destroyed them anyway. Papers on the Borgias exposed corruption so deep it would make modern politicians blush. But these revelations represent less than 1% of what's actually stored there. The Vatican admits they contain correspondence from every major world leader for centuries, detailed records of the Inquisition, confessions from history's most powerful figures, and documents that could rewrite our understanding of major historical events. So why the extreme secrecy? The Vatican's official explanation is laughably inadequate. They claim they're protecting privacy and preventing misinterpretation. But privacy for people who died centuries ago, protecting documents that could advance human knowledge. The real question is, what could be so dangerous that it requires this level of security? What truths are so explosive that they've been locked away for generations? Why does the world's supposedly most transparent religious institution maintain the world's most secretive library? Former Vatican archivists have whispered about sections that are completely sealed, accessible only to the Pope and his most trusted advisors. They speak of documents that would shake the foundations of faith and history. They describe entire rooms that haven't been opened in decades, containing secrets that even the Church fears to confront. The Vatican claims they're protecting humanity from dangerous knowledge. But what if they're protecting themselves from dangerous truth? The truth is, they're not just keeping secrets from us. They're keeping us from ourselves. Everyone knows the story of Galileo, the brilliant scientist who dared to say the Earth revolved around the sun, was persecuted by the narrow-minded Church, and mumbled, "and yet it moves," as he was sentenced. It's a nice simple tale of science versus superstition. But like most stories, the Vatican allows us to tell. It's a carefully edited version that hides a far more disturbing truth. In 1992, after 350 years of secrecy, the Vatican finally released portions of Galileo's trial transcripts. What they revealed should have shocked the world, but the most explosive details were buried in academic journals where few would ever see them. The real Galileo affair wasn't about a stubborn church refusing to accept scientific progress. It was about the Vatican's systematic campaign to control human knowledge about the nature of reality itself. The transcripts reveal that Galileo wasn't just teaching heliocentrism, he was promoting ideas that threatened the Church's entire worldview. He had calculated that the stars were vastly more distant than the Church claimed, suggesting a universe far larger and older than biblical timelines allowed. He had observed moons orbiting Jupiter, proving that not everything revolved around Earth. Most dangerously, he had begun to question whether the heavens were truly perfect and unchanging as church doctrine demanded. But here's what they don't teach in schools: Galileo wasn't alone. The transcripts mention dozens of other scholars, astronomers, and mathematicians who had reached similar conclusions. What happened to them? Their names were systematically erased from official records. Their works were destroyed. Some simply vanished. The Vatican didn't just silence one man, they orchestrated a campaign to eliminate an entire generation of scientific thinking. The trial records show that Cardinal Bellarmine, Galileo's chief prosecutor, wasn't ignorant of the evidence. He understood the mathematical proofs. He had seen the observations through telescopes. But he explicitly stated that truth was less important than maintaining the Church's authority over human consciousness. In his own words, the intention of the Holy Ghost is to teach us how to go to heaven, not how the heavens go, and we must ensure that how the heavens go serves how to go to heaven. This wasn't about protecting faith, it was about protecting power. The Vatican knew that if people understood the true scale of the universe, they might start questioning their place in it. If the earth wasn't the center of creation, maybe humans weren't either. If the stars were other suns, maybe there were other worlds. If the universe was ancient and vast, maybe the biblical timeline was wrong. These weren't just scientific questions, they were existential threats to the Church's monopoly on truth. The most chilling revelation in the transcripts is the Vatican's secret decision to create a new category of knowledge: dangerous truths. These were facts that might be scientifically accurate, but were deemed too destabilizing for public consumption. The Vatican established a classified system for handling such information, sharing it only with trusted scholars who could be counted on to present it in ways that supported church doctrine. This system didn't end with Galileo. It evolved. The Vatican continued to monitor, suppress, and control scientific discoveries that threatened their narrative. They infiltrated universities, influenced publishers, and created a network of compliant scholars who would present sanitized versions of reality to the public. Today, we're told that the Church has embraced science, that they've moved beyond the dark ages of suppression. But the Galileo files reveal a more troubling truth. They didn't abandon the practice of controlling dangerous knowledge, they simply became more sophisticated at it. The question isn't whether the Vatican learned from the Galileo affair. The question is, what are they hiding from us now? On Friday, October 13, 1307, the most powerful military order in medieval Europe, vanished overnight. The Knights Templar, warrior monks who had protected Christian pilgrims for 2 centuries, were simultaneously arrested across France in a coordinated operation that would make modern intelligence agencies envious. The official story claims they were destroyed for heresy and financial crimes. But the truth, hidden in Vatican archives for 700 years, reveals something far more sinister. In 2007, the Vatican shocked historians by releasing portions of the Templar trial documents, the Chinon parchment. What they revealed wasn't the story of corrupt knights, but of an organization that had stumbled upon knowledge so dangerous that the Church felt compelled to destroy them completely. The released documents showed that Pope Clement V had secretly absolved the Templars of all charges, knowing they were innocent. So why were they still eliminated? The answer lies in what the Vatican chose not to release: the interrogation records that detail exactly what the Templars had discovered during their 2 centuries in the Holy Land. Fragments that have leaked over the years paint a picture of knights who had become far more than simple warriors. They had evolved into scholars, archaeologists, and keepers of ancient wisdom that predated Christianity itself. The Templars had spent decades excavating beneath the Temple of Solomon, uncovering texts and artifacts that contradicted fundamental church teachings. They had established libraries in their commanderies across Europe, collecting forbidden knowledge from Islamic scholars, Jewish mystics, and ancient pagan sources. Most dangerously, they had begun to synthesize this information into a coherent worldview that challenged the Church's monopoly on spiritual truth. Trial transcripts mentioned blasphemous books and heretical charts confiscated from Templar properties. These weren't just religious texts, they included astronomical calculations, architectural blueprints, and what appear to be maps of territories that Europeans weren't supposed to know existed. The Templars had become a parallel knowledge network that threatened to expose the Church's carefully constructed version of reality. The Vatican's own records, partially declassified in the 1990s, reveal that the Templars had been secretly sharing their discoveries with scholars across Europe. They had established a network of communication that bypassed church censorship, spreading ideas that could undermine Christian doctrine. When the Church discovered this underground knowledge network, they realized that simply condemning the ideas wouldn't be enough. They had to eliminate the entire organization. But here's what should terrify you. The Vatican's campaign against the Templars wasn't just about destroying the knights themselves. It was about erasing all evidence of what they had discovered. Templar libraries were burned. Their archives were confiscated and locked away. Their scholars were tortured, not just for confessions, but to reveal the locations of hidden documents and artifacts. The 2007 document release was carefully calculated to provide just enough information to seem transparent while concealing the most explosive revelations. The Vatican claims that most Templar documents were destroyed or lost over the centuries. But former archivists have whispered about sealed sections containing thousands of pages of Templar materials, including detailed accounts of their archaeological discoveries and the ancient knowledge they had uncovered. What did the Templars find beneath Solomon's temple? What forbidden wisdom had they collected from across the known world? And why, after 700 years, does the Vatican still consider this knowledge too dangerous to reveal? The answer lies in documents that may never see the light of day, locked away in the deepest vaults of the Vatican's secret archives. The Bible you know today contains just 27 books in the New Testament. But what if I told you that in the first centuries after Christ's death, there were over 50 different Gospels circulating among early Christians? What happened to the other 23? They weren't lost to time or accident. They were deliberately destroyed by the Vatican in one of history's most systematic campaigns of knowledge suppression. The story begins in 325 CE at the Council of Nicaea, where Emperor Constantine and Bishop Hosius didn't just establish Christian doctrine, they engineered the greatest book burning in human history. The council wasn't about preserving authentic Christianity, it was about creating a unified version that would serve the Roman Empire's political needs. Any gospel that portrayed Jesus as too human, too divine, or too different from their manufactured image had to disappear. The Vatican's own records, hidden for centuries, reveal the systematic nature of this purge. The Gnostic Gospels, texts like the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, weren't just discouraged, they were declared heretical, and anyone caught possessing them faced torture or death. These weren't minor variations on familiar stories. They contained radically different accounts of Jesus' teachings, his relationship with his disciples, and the nature of divine knowledge itself. The Gospel of Thomas, discovered in 1945, but suppressed for decades, presents Jesus not as a savior figure, but as a teacher showing others how to achieve their own divine nature. "The kingdom of God is within you," he says, "and whoever knows themselves shall find it." This wasn't heretical because it was false. It was heretical because it eliminated the need for the church as an intermediary between humans and the divine. Even more threatening was the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which portrayed her not as a repentant prostitute, but as Jesus' most trusted disciple and possible successor. The Vatican couldn't allow a version of Christianity where women held spiritual authority, so they rewrote Mary's story entirely, transforming her from a spiritual leader into a symbol of female sin and redemption through male forgiveness. But the most explosive suppressed texts dealt with Jesus' human nature. The Gospel of Philip described Jesus as married with children. The infancy Gospel of Thomas portrayed a young Jesus learning to control supernatural powers. These weren't fantasy stories. They were written by communities that claimed direct connection to Jesus' original followers. The Vatican labeled them apocryphal and ordered their destruction not because they lacked authenticity, but because they made Jesus too relatable, too human. The Vatican's archive contains correspondence between bishops detailing how this purge was carried out. They didn't just burn books, they hunted down the communities that preserved these texts. Entire Christian sects were eliminated, their members tortured, until they revealed the locations of hidden manuscripts. The Cathars, the Bogomils, the Paulicians, all were destroyed not for their beliefs, but for their books. What's most chilling is how thorough this destruction was. For over 1,500 years, mainstream Christianity had no idea these alternative gospels had ever existed. It wasn't until archaeological discoveries in the 20th century, like the Nag Hammadi Library in Egypt, that scholars began to piece together the true diversity of early Christian thought. The Vatican's response to these discoveries reveals their continuing agenda. Instead of embracing these texts as valuable historical documents, they've worked to marginalize them, funding scholarship that dismisses them as late or unreliable, while keeping their own extensive collection of early Christian manuscripts locked away. The question isn't whether these lost Gospels contain absolute truth. The question is, what gave the Vatican the right to decide which version of Jesus' story humanity was allowed to hear? And what other suppressed texts are still locked away, waiting to shatter our understanding of Christianity's origins? While the world was taught that ancient people believed in a flat earth and that astronomical knowledge only advanced after the Renaissance, the Vatican was quietly hoarding evidence of sophisticated cosmic understanding that predated official scientific discovery by centuries. Hidden in their archives are medieval manuscripts containing star charts, eclipse predictions, and planetary calculations so accurate they rival modern astronomy. The Codex Vaticanus Graecus 1291, locked away since the 13th century, contains detailed astronomical tables that predict solar eclipses with precision that shouldn't have been possible for another 400 years. The manuscript includes calculations for planetary positions, lunar cycles, and stellar movements that demonstrate a level of mathematical sophistication that contradicts everything we're told about medieval scientific ignorance. Even more shocking is the Liber Astronomicus, a collection of texts confiscated from European monasteries during the 14th century. These documents describe the Earth as a sphere rotating around the Sun, include detailed maps of star constellations, invisible to the naked eye, and contain precise measurements of the solar system's dimensions. This wasn't theoretical speculation. These were working documents used by scholars who clearly had access to advanced observational tools and mathematical techniques. The Vatican's own correspondence reveals their awareness of this knowledge and their deliberate decision to suppress it. Cardinal Albertus Magnus, writing in 1250, warned that if the public learned about the true scale of the universe, they might begin to question humanity's special place in creation. Bishop Robert Grosseteste's sealed letters describe dangerous astronomy that could undermine faith by revealing the cosmos as ancient and vast beyond biblical comprehension. What makes this suppression even more sinister is evidence that the Vatican didn't just hide this knowledge, they actively promoted false alternatives. While they possessed accurate astronomical texts, they encouraged the spread of simplified, geocentric models that supported church doctrine. They funded scholars who would present a universe perfectly sized for Christian theology, while secretly consulting the forbidden texts for their own purposes. The Vatican Observatory, established in 1582, wasn't created to advance astronomy. It was designed to monitor and control astronomical knowledge. Internal documents reveal that its primary function was to identify dangerous discoveries before they could spread and to develop theologically compatible explanations for celestial phenomena. When Galileo began promoting heliocentrism, the Vatican already knew he was right. They had possessed proof for centuries. Medieval Islamic and Jewish texts in the Vatican's collection show that advanced astronomical knowledge was being shared between cultures long before European scientists officially discovered it. The Vatican confiscated these texts during the Crusades and the Inquisition, not to preserve them, but to prevent their ideas from spreading. They knew that if European scholars had access to Islamic astronomical calculations and Jewish mystical cosmology, the Church's simple creation story would collapse. Perhaps most disturbing are the Vatican's own astronomical predictions, made centuries in advance with perfect accuracy. Papal documents from the 1300s correctly predict eclipses, comet appearances, and planetary alignments that wouldn't occur for hundreds of years. This wasn't divine revelation, it was advanced scientific knowledge that the Church used for political advantage while denying it to humanity. The Vatican's modern astronomical work continues this pattern of selective disclosure. Their current observatories possess some of the world's most advanced telescopes, yet their discoveries are rarely published in mainstream scientific journals. Former Vatican astronomers have spoken anonymously about being ordered to suppress observations that might challenge religious doctrine or raise uncomfortable questions about humanity's place in the cosmos. The question isn't whether the Vatican possessed advanced astronomical knowledge. The evidence is overwhelming. The question is, what else do they know about the universe that they're still hiding from us? The burning of the Library of Alexandria wasn't a tragic accident or the unfortunate casualty of war. It was the opening act in the Vatican's systematic campaign to erase pre-Christian knowledge from human memory. What followed was the most devastating destruction of accumulated wisdom in human history, orchestrated by the early Church to ensure that Christianity would have no intellectual competition. Vatican records from the 4th century reveal the calculated nature of this campaign. Bishop Theophilus of Alexandria didn't just destroy pagan temples, he specifically targeted their libraries. His letters to Rome describe purifying Egypt of blasphemous wisdom that contradicted Christian doctrine. The Serapeum, Alexandria's last great library, was deliberately burned after church officials catalogued its contents and removed select texts for their own archives. This wasn't random destruction, it was strategic acquisition. The Vatican's own inventory records, hidden for centuries, show that they systematically preserved certain ancient texts while destroying others. Works on medicine, engineering, and mathematics were saved if they could be useful to the Church, but books on philosophy, astronomy, and alternative spiritual practices were marked for elimination. The pattern repeated across the Roman Empire. In Athens, the academy founded by Plato was closed and its library confiscated. In Rome, the great libraries of Trajan and Hadrian were cleansed of pagan materials. In Constantinople, the Imperial Library's collection of ancient Greek texts was reduced from 120,000 scrolls to fewer than 1,000 approved works. The Vatican's correspondence reveals this wasn't happening randomly. It was a coordinated policy directed from Rome. The most devastating purges occurred in the provinces. In Gaul, Celtic Druids maintained oral traditions and sacred texts that contained thousands of years of accumulated wisdom. Church records described the systematic execution of Druids, not just for their beliefs, but to prevent the transmission of their knowledge. In Britain, the destruction of Celtic monasteries was specifically aimed at eliminating texts that portrayed pre-Christian spiritual traditions as sophisticated and valid. Medieval chronicles reveal that the Vatican's destruction of ancient wisdom continued for centuries. The Crusades weren't just military campaigns, they were cultural purges. When Christian armies captured cities like Baghdad and Damascus, they specifically targeted libraries and centers of learning. The House of Wisdom in Baghdad, containing the world's largest collection of Greek, Persian, and Arabic texts, was deliberately destroyed on orders from church officials who accompanied the armies. What's most chilling is how the Vatican documented their own actions. Internal records describe the cleansing of dangerous knowledge as a sacred duty. They created detailed lists of prohibited texts, established procedures for identifying heretical materials, and trained specialists in the systematic destruction of libraries. This wasn't ignorant fanaticism, it was bureaucratic genocide of human knowledge. But the Vatican didn't just destroy what they collected. Their archives contained thousands of condemned texts that were supposedly eliminated. Ancient Egyptian magical papyri, Greek philosophical works, Roman engineering manuals, and Celtic mystical texts, all preserved in the Vatican's deepest vaults, while the world was told they had been lost forever. The consequences of this systematic destruction are still felt today. Entire civilizations' contributions to human knowledge vanished. The wisdom of ancient Egypt, the philosophical schools of Greece, the scientific achievements of Islamic scholars, all reduced to fragments because they threatened the Church's monopoly on truth. Vatican librarians have admitted privately that their oldest collections contain texts that would revolutionize our understanding of ancient civilizations. Works by philosophers whose names were erased from history. Scientific treatises that predate official discoveries by centuries. Spiritual texts that offer alternatives to Judeo-Christian monotheism. The burning of Alexandria was just the beginning. What followed was a millennium-long campaign to ensure that Christianity would appear to be humanity's greatest intellectual achievement by eliminating all evidence of what came before. The Vatican didn't just suppress competing ideas, they erased entire alternative histories of human knowledge. The question isn't what was lost in these purges. The question is, what remains hidden in the Vatican's vaults, waiting to reveal the true scope of human wisdom that was stolen from us? The Spanish Inquisition wasn't just about rooting out false converts or protecting Catholic purity. It was the Vatican's most sophisticated intelligence operation, designed to locate and destroy every remaining fragment of forbidden knowledge in Europe. The sealed Inquisition files, hidden in the Vatican's deepest archives, reveal a systematic campaign of torture that targeted not random heretics, but specifically scholars, librarians, and keepers of ancient wisdom. The Inquisition's own manuals, locked away for centuries, expose their true priorities. The infamous Directorium Inquisitorum contains detailed instructions for interrogating suspects, but the most disturbing sections focus on extracting information about books, manuscripts, and hidden libraries. Inquisitors were specifically trained to identify scholars who might possess dangerous knowledge, and their torture methods were designed not just to extract confessions, but to force victims to reveal the locations of concealed texts. Cardinal Tom S. de Torquemada's private correspondence, discovered in Vatican archives in the 1960s but never fully released, describes the Inquisition's primary mission as cleansing the realm of all wisdom that predates Christ. His letters detail a network of informants in universities, monasteries, and noble houses, all searching for evidence of prohibited knowledge. This wasn't religious persecution, it was intellectual warfare. The victims tell the story. Giordano Bruno, burned at the stake in 16, wasn't executed for his astronomical theories. He was killed for possessing ancient texts that described multiple worlds and infinite universes. The Inquisition's records show they tortured him for 8 years, not to make him recant his beliefs, but to force him to reveal where he had hidden his collection of forbidden manuscripts. He died without breaking. The trial transcripts of countless lesser-known victims revealed the same pattern. Scholars were tortured until they revealed the locations of hidden libraries. Monks were broken until they confessed to copying prohibited texts. Jewish intellectuals were tormented until they disclosed the contents of their community's ancient archives. The Inquisition wasn't just destroying people, they were systematically dismantling Europe's underground knowledge network. What's most chilling is how methodical this process was. The Inquisition maintained detailed catalogues of prohibited books, created specialized units for hunting down specific types of knowledge, and established protocols for interrogating different categories of suspects. They knew exactly what they were looking for and how to find it. The Vatican's own records show that the Inquisition confiscated over 300,000 books and manuscripts during its peak years. These weren't just religious texts, they included works on medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and natural philosophy. Many were ancient texts that existed nowhere else in the world. The Inquisition's inventory lists describe Greek philosophical works, Arab scientific treatises, and Jewish mystical texts that were supposedly lost to history. But here's the most disturbing part. Most of these confiscated materials weren't destroyed immediately. They were transported to Rome, catalogued, and stored in special Vatican collections. The Inquisition wasn't just eliminating dangerous knowledge, they were centralizing it, ensuring that forbidden wisdom would be available only to the church hierarchy. The torture methods themselves reveal the Vatican's true priorities. While popular accounts focus on the physical brutality, the Inquisition's own manuals emphasize psychological techniques designed to break intellectual resistance. They developed specific procedures for interrogating scholars, including methods for forcing them to decode encrypted texts, reveal the identities of other knowledge keepers, and disclose the locations of hidden archives. Documents from the Roman Inquisition show that this campaign extended far beyond Spain. Every major European city had Inquisition agents whose primary mission was identifying and eliminating sources of dangerous knowledge. Universities were infiltrated, libraries were monitored, and scholarly correspondence was intercepted. The Vatican created the world's first intelligence network dedicated to controlling information. The consequences are still felt today. Entire fields of ancient knowledge vanished. The wisdom of classical antiquity, the scientific achievements of Islamic scholars, the mystical traditions of medieval Europe, all reduced to fragments because they threatened the Church's monopoly on truth. The Inquisition files reveal that this wasn't fanaticism or ignorance. It was a calculated strategy to ensure that Christianity would appear to be humanity's greatest intellectual achievement by eliminating all evidence of what came before. The question isn't how many people the Inquisition killed. The question is, how much human knowledge died with them? In the mountains of Arizona, the Vatican operates one of the world's most advanced astronomical facilities, the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope. But this isn't about studying distant galaxies for the glory of God. This is about monitoring the cosmos for discoveries that could shatter the foundation of human beliefs, just as the Church has done for centuries. The Vatican Observatory's public mission sounds innocent enough, exploring the cosmos to better understand God's creation. But their actual operations tell a different story. They possess technology that rivals NASA's capabilities, yet their most significant findings never appear in mainstream scientific journals. Their astronomers are sworn to secrecy through special oaths that go far beyond normal academic confidentiality. What makes this especially suspicious is the Vatican's choice of research focus. While other observatories search for potentially habitable planets or study cosmic phenomena, the Vatican specifically monitors near-Earth objects, searches for artificial signals from space, and tracks anomalous celestial events. Their telescopes are equipped with instruments designed to detect signs of intelligence in the cosmos, technology that suggests they're not just looking for God's handiwork, but for evidence of other intelligences. The Vatican's astronomical archives contain observations dating back to 1582, making them one of the longest continuous records of celestial events in human history. Yet access to these records is more restricted than their medieval manuscripts. Independent researchers who have requested access to historical astronomical data have been refused, told that the materials are too sensitive for public release. What could be sensitive about star charts and planetary observations? Former Vatican astronomers, speaking anonymously, have revealed that the observatory maintains two separate research programs. The public program produces safe discoveries about stellar formation and galactic structure. The classified program focuses on what they call theologically significant phenomenal events that could challenge fundamental religious beliefs about humanity's place in creation. The most disturbing revelations come from the Vatican's modern SAT, I-like activities. Since the 1990s, they've been using their advanced equipment to monitor artificial signals from space. But unlike other SATI programs, their findings are never shared with the global scientific community. Vatican astronomers have privately admitted to detecting structured signals that suggest intelligent origin, but these discoveries are immediately classified and stored in sealed archives. This secrecy becomes even more concerning when viewed alongside the Vatican's historical pattern of suppressing cosmic knowledge. Just as they hid advanced astronomical calculations in medieval times, they continue to control information about humanity's cosmic context. The difference is that now they're not just hiding what ancient scholars discovered, they're hiding what modern technology reveals about our universe. The Vatican's collaboration with major space agencies raises additional questions. They maintain private communication channels with NASA, ESA, and other space organizations, receiving advance notice of significant discoveries. But while these agencies eventually release their findings to the public, Vatican astronomical data remains locked away indefinitely. Perhaps most telling is the Vatican's recent statements about extraterrestrial life. In 2008, Vatican astronomer Jos Gabriel Funes publicly declared that the existence of alien life would not contradict Catholic doctrine. This wasn't a casual observation. It was a carefully prepared statement that suggests the Vatican knows something about cosmic life that the rest of us don't. The Vatican Observatory represents the modern evolution of the Church's ancient practice of controlling dangerous knowledge. They're no longer just suppressing what humans discover about the cosmos, they're actively searching for cosmic truths, while ensuring that only they decide when and how humanity learns about our place in the universe. The question isn't whether the Vatican has discovered evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence. The question is, what gives them the right to keep such discoveries from the rest of humanity? After World War II, while the world celebrated the defeat of Nazi Germany, the Vatican was secretly orchestrating one of the most shocking cover-ups in modern history. Through networks called ratlines, the Church didn't just help thousands of Nazi war criminals escape justice. They helped smuggle out the Reich's most precious cargo, ancient artifacts, and occult knowledge that the Nazis had spent years collecting from across the globe. The official story claims the Vatican's ratlines were humanitarian efforts to help refugees reach South America. But declassified intelligence documents tell a different truth. Bishop Alois Hudal and Monsignor Krunoslav Draganovi weren't just helping random displaced persons. They were specifically facilitating the escape of Nazi officers who possessed knowledge the Vatican wanted to acquire. What the public never learned is that the Nazis had conducted the most extensive archaeological looting operation in human history. Heinrich Himmler's Ahnenerbe research organization had systematically plundered ancient sites across Europe, Asia, and Africa, searching for artifacts that supported their theories about Aryan superiority. But they found something far more disturbing: evidence of advanced ancient civilizations that predated all known histories. Vatican archives, partially declassified in the 1990s, reveal correspondence between Nazi archaeologists and Vatican scholars throughout the war. They weren't enemies, they were collaborators, sharing information about ancient texts, mystical artifacts, and archaeological discoveries that both organizations wanted to keep hidden from the public. Both groups understood that certain knowledge about humanity's past was too dangerous to reveal. When Germany fell, the Vatican moved quickly to secure these artifacts before Allied forces could discover them. Through the ratlines, they smuggled out not just Nazi officials, but entire collections of stolen relics. The Spear of Destiny, ancient Tibetan manuscripts, pre-Columbian artifacts suggesting transoceanic contact, and countless other objects disappeared into Vatican vaults, officially lost during the chaos of war. The most chilling evidence comes from the testimony of former SSE officer Wilhelm von Vorpal, who revealed before his death that the Vatican had specifically requested the transfer of what he called the Jerusalem collection artifacts recovered from beneath the Temple Mount during Nazi archaeological expeditions in Palestine. These objects, he claimed, contained evidence that would rewrite the entire history of human civilization. But the Vatican's collaboration with the Nazis went deeper than just artifact smuggling. They provided sanctuary to scholars like Hans F. K. G. Enther and Walter W. Est, whose research into ancient civilizations had uncovered evidence that contradicted both Christian and evolutionary accounts of human origins. These men weren't war criminals. In the traditional sense, they were knowledge criminals whose discoveries threatened fundamental assumptions about humanity's past. The South American connections reveal the true scope of this operation. Many of the Nazis who escaped through Vatican ratlines established research facilities in Argentina, Chile, and Brazil, where they continued their archaeological work under church protection. These weren't random hideouts. They were strategic locations chosen for their proximity to ancient sites that contained more forbidden knowledge. What makes this collaboration especially disturbing is how it continues today. The Vatican's modern collections include artifacts that can only have come from Nazi looting operations. Museum inventories from the 1950s show sudden acquisitions of ancient objects with deliberately vague provenance records. Former Vatican employees have described seeing collections that match detailed descriptions of artifacts stolen by the Nazis. The Vatican's defense is that they were simply preserving important historical objects from destruction. But this explanation ignores the deliberate secrecy surrounding these collections and the systematic way they've prevented scholars from studying them. They didn't save these artifacts for humanity, they saved them from humanity. The ratlines weren't just about helping war criminals escape justice. They were about ensuring that the most dangerous archaeological discoveries of the 20th century would remain hidden in Vatican vaults, where they could never challenge the official narratives that keep humanity ignorant of its true origins. The question isn't whether the Vatican helped Nazis escape. The question is, what did they receive in return, and why is it still too dangerous to reveal? Deep within the Vatican's most secure archives, lies a collection that would terrify world leaders and shatter public confidence in the future, the Prophecy Vault. Here, locked away from human eyes, are thousands of predictions, visions, and prophetic texts that the Church claims are too dangerous for public consumption. But what if these aren't just religious prophecies? What if they're blueprints for humanity's planned future? The most famous sealed prophecy is the third secret of Fatima. In 1917, 3 Portuguese children claimed the Virgin Mary revealed 3 secrets about humanity's future. The Vatican released 2 of these secrets, but has kept the third locked away for over a century. In 2000, they claimed to release it, but Vatican insiders have revealed that what they published was a sanitized version designed to prevent mass panic. Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, before becoming Pope Benedict XV, I inadvertently revealed the truth in a private letter that was later leaked. He described the real third secret as containing visions of global catastrophe, the fall of the church hierarchy, and the emergence of a new form of humanity. He explicitly stated that releasing the complete prophecy would cause uncontrollable social upheaval and the collapse of faith in human institutions. But Fatima is just one piece of a much larger collection. The Vatican possesses the complete, unedited prophecies of Nostradamus, not just the published quatrains that scholars debate, but private letters and detailed manuscripts that Nostradamus entrusted to the Church before his death. These documents allegedly contain specific dates, locations, and descriptions of future events that are so accurate they read like historical accounts written in advance. Former Vatican archivist Father Malachi Martin, before his mysterious death in 1999, claimed he had seen prophecies that described current world events with impossible precision. He spoke of texts that predicted specific technological developments, named future world leaders, and described global conflicts in stunning detail. According to Martin, these weren't vague mystical visions. They were detailed operational plans disguised as divine revelations. The Vatican's Prophecy Vault also contains what they call the engineering documents, prophetic texts that don't just predict future events, but appear to provide instructions for bringing them about. These include detailed descriptions of social manipulation techniques, methods for controlling global communications, and strategies for managing mass populations during times of crisis. What makes these prophecies especially disturbing is their apparent connection to current events. Vatican insiders have reported that church leaders regularly consult these texts when making major decisions, as if they're following a predetermined script rather than responding to natural developments. The timing of papal announcements, the Church's positions on global issues, and their responses to world crises all seem to align with patterns described in these sealed prophecies. The Vatican's collection includes prophetic texts from cultures around the world, Mayan calendars that extend far beyond 2012, Tibetan Buddhist predictions about the Dark Age, ancient Egyptian prophecies about the time of choosing, and Native American visions of Earth's transformation. The common thread among all these prophecies is the description of a planned transition where humanity will be divided into 2 distinct groups, those who remain ignorant and those who possess hidden knowledge. Perhaps most chilling are the prophecies that describe the Vatican's own role in humanity's future. These texts allegedly reveal that the Church has been preparing for centuries to serve as the spiritual authority during a coming global transformation. They describe a time when traditional governments will collapse and the Vatican will emerge as the primary institution managing human civilization. The Vatican's official position is that they seal these prophecies to prevent misinterpretation and social panic. But former insiders suggest a more sinister truth. These aren't prophecies of what might happen, but records of what has been planned to happen. The question isn't whether these prophecies accurately predict the future. The question is, are they predictions or are they instructions? In the deepest levels of the Vatican, behind doors that haven't been opened to outsiders in decades, lies a collection that would rewrite every history textbook on Earth, the Ancient Technology Vault. Here, the Church has assembled artifacts that prove human civilization once possessed technology far more advanced than anything we have today. But instead of sharing these discoveries with humanity, they've buried them in darkness, protecting a lie that keeps us ignorant of our true heritage. The collection began during the Crusades, when Templar knights discovered impossible artifacts beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Medieval inventories describe crystalline devices that capture light, metal alloys unknown to earthly smiths, and mechanisms that move without visible power. These weren't crude ancient tools, they were sophisticated technologies that the Church immediately recognized as dangerous to their narrative of human progress. Vatican acquisition records from the Renaissance reveal systematic collection of what they classified as anomalous artifacts. When Spanish conquistadors looted South American temples, the most advanced technological artifacts were quietly shipped to Rome rather than melted down for gold. Jesuit missionaries in Asia collected similar objects from Buddhist monasteries and Hindu temples, all destined for the Vatican's growing repository of impossible technologies. The most famous artifacts in this collection are the crystal skulls, not the crude forgeries displayed in museums, but perfectly crafted crystalline heads, carved with precision that exceeds modern capabilities. Geologist analysis conducted in secret Vatican laboratories has confirmed that these skulls were carved against the natural crystal matrix, something that should be impossible without diamond-tipped tools, guided by computer precision. Yet they date to periods when humans supposedly hadn't even discovered iron. Even more disturbing are the Baghdad batteries, ceramic jars containing copper cylinders and iron rods that generate electrical current when filled with acidic solutions. The Vatican possesses dozens of these devices, recovered from Mesopotamian sites, along with detailed instructions written in cuneiform describing their use in electroplating precious metals and powering divine lights in ancient temples. This technology predates the official discovery of electricity by over 2,000 years. The metallurgy section contains samples that defy our understanding of ancient capabilities. The Vatican possesses aluminum artifacts from Egyptian tombs aluminum that requires electrical smelting processes not developed until the 19th century. They have steel alloys from Indian temples that contain elements not found naturally on Earth. Most shocking are the memory metals alloys that return to predetermined shapes when heated, technology we've only recently begun to understand. But perhaps the most revolutionary artifacts are the mechanical devices. Vatican engineers have studied ancient gears and clockwork mechanisms that demonstrate mathematical precision and engineering sophistication that rivals Swiss watchmaking. These devices include astronomical calculators, more complex than the famous Antikythera mechanism, perpetual motion machines that continue operating centuries after their creation, and navigational instruments that somehow account for the Earth's rotation and magnetic variation. The Vatican's scientific analysis of these artifacts, conducted in complete secrecy, has produced conclusions that would shatter orthodox archaeology. Carbon dating confirms impossible ages. Metallurgical analysis reveals manufacturing techniques we can't replicate. Crystallographic studies show molecular structures that shouldn't exist in nature. Yet none of this research has ever been published or shared with the scientific community. What makes this suppression especially sinister is the Vatican's use of these technologies for their own purposes. Former employees have described seeing modern devices in Vatican facilities that appear to be based on principles derived from ancient artifacts. The Church has been reverse engineering forgotten technologies while keeping humanity ignorant of its own heritage. The theological implications explain why these artifacts must remain hidden. If ancient civilizations possessed advanced technology, It suggests that human progress isn't linear, that we've lost more knowledge than we've gained, and that our ancestors might have been far more sophisticated than biblical accounts allow. These artifacts prove that human civilization has risen and fallen multiple times, contradicting religious narratives of steady progress under divine guidance. The Vatican's own researchers have privately concluded that these artifacts represent evidence of at least 3 previous high-tech civilizations that flourished and disappeared before recorded history began. Each collapse was apparently so complete that only scattered artifacts remained, collected over centuries by those who recognized their significance. The question isn't whether ancient civilizations possessed advanced technology. The evidence locked in Vatican vaults proves they did. The question is, why is the Church so determined to keep humanity ignorant of its own magnificent past? Hidden within the Vatican's most classified archives lies a collection of documents that would fundamentally alter our understanding of human origins, the Genetic Codex. These aren't theological treatises about divine creation, but scientific records documenting evidence of genetic manipulation in human development, missing evolutionary links, and proof that our species didn't evolve naturally. The Vatican has been suppressing this evidence for decades, while secretly using it to influence modern genetic research. The Codex began forming in the 1950s, when Vatican scientists, working with captured Nazi researchers, started analyzing blood samples and genetic material from archaeological sites worldwide. What they discovered challenged both religious creation stories and evolutionary theory. Human DNA contained anomalies that suggested deliberate modification genetic sequences that couldn't have developed through natural selection, chromosomal patterns that indicated artificial intervention, and markers that linked modern humans to unknown ancestral sources. The most explosive documents in the Codex describe the missing link conspiracy. For over a century, archaeologists have searched for transitional fossils between early hominids and modern humans, but these crucial evolutionary steps have never been found. Vatican researchers possess evidence explaining why, because there was no gradual transition. Human beings were genetically engineered from existing primate species through sophisticated biotechnology that ancient civilizations possessed, but modern science is only beginning to understand. These documents detail analysis of preserved genetic material from Egyptian mummies, Mesopotamian burial sites, and pre-Columbian remains. Consistently, the oldest human samples show genetic complexity that decreases over time, as if humanity has been gradually losing genetic capabilities rather than evolving new ones. The Vatican's researchers discovered that ancient humans possessed genetic sequences that enhanced intelligence, longevity, and physical capabilities, sequences that have been systematically removed from the human genome over millennia. What makes this discovery especially sinister is the Vatican's role in continuing this genetic manipulation. Through their network of Catholic hospitals, research institutions, and bioethics committees, they've been secretly collecting genetic data from billions of people worldwide. Vatican-funded research facilities in Switzerland, Germany, and the United States have been conducting experiments aimed at identifying and suppressing specific genetic markers that might allow humans to access their original capabilities. The Codex reveals that the Vatican works closely with major pharmaceutical companies to ensure that genetic therapies and medical treatments actually limit human potential rather than enhance it. Vaccines, medications, and medical procedures are carefully designed to maintain genetic suppression while appearing to provide health benefits. The goal isn't to harm humanity, but to keep us operating at reduced capacity, preventing us from rediscovering our true genetic heritage. Even more disturbing are the Vatican's connections to modern reproductive technology. In vitro fertilization, clinics worldwide receive guidance from Vatican bioethics advisors who secretly screen embryos, not just for genetic diseases, but for markers indicating enhanced capabilities. Embryos showing signs of genetic potential are either altered or eliminated, ensuring that each new generation remains within acceptable parameters. The codex contains detailed genealogical records showing that certain bloodlines have retained more of the original human genetic template. These families, scattered across the globe, are carefully monitored by Vatican agents. Some are recruited into church leadership or allied organizations. Others are subjected to subtle genetic suppression through targeted medical interventions. The goal is ensuring that enhanced genetic capabilities never emerge in sufficient numbers to threaten the established order. Perhaps most shocking is evidence that the Vatican possesses the complete original human genetic blueprint, the template from which our species was originally created. This information, stored in the deepest levels of their archives, contains the instructions for reversing millennia of genetic suppression and restoring humanity to its intended capabilities. But instead of using this knowledge to benefit humanity, they guard it as their ultimate source of power. The Vatican's modern genetic research extends beyond Earth. They maintain secret relationships with space agencies, analyzing genetic material from meteorites and conducting experiments in orbital laboratories. Their goal appears to be understanding how human genetics might be further modified for survival in space or on other worlds, but only for select populations under church control. The question isn't whether human genetics have been artificially manipulated throughout history. The Vatican's own research proves this beyond doubt. The question is, what gives them the right to continue controlling human evolution in secret? Buried within the Vatican's classified archives are documents that reveal a terrifying truth about Earth's climate. It has been artificially controlled for millennia. The Climate Chronicles, a collection of texts spanning thousands of years, prove that weather manipulation isn't a modern conspiracy theory, but an ancient science that the Vatican has preserved and refined throughout history. What we're told, unnatural climate patterns, are actually the result of deliberate atmospheric engineering designed to control human populations. The earliest documents describe climate manipulation technologies possessed by ancient civilizations. Egyptian papyri detail sky machines capable of redirecting the Nile's floods. Mesopotamian cuneiform tablets describe weather control rituals that were actually technical procedures, and main codices contain precise formulas for atmospheric manipulation. These weren't primitive rain dances. They were sophisticated weather engineering systems that ancient priest-scientists used to maintain agricultural control over their populations. Medieval chronicles preserved in Vatican vaults document how the Church inherited these climate control technologies and refined them throughout the Dark Ages. The Great Famine of 1315–1322 wasn't a natural disaster. It was an artificially induced climate crisis used to consolidate church power during a period of political instability. Vatican correspondence from this period explicitly discusses the necessity of hunger to maintain spiritual obedience and prevent popular uprisings. Even more disturbing are documents describing how climate manipulation has been used as a weapon throughout history. The Black Death pandemic coincided with unusual atmospheric conditions that Vatican meteorologists had predicted years in advance. The Little Ice Age that devastated Europe from the 14th to 19th centuries shows patterns consistent with deliberate atmospheric cooling designed to weaken emerging nation-states and maintain church dominance. The Vatican's modern climate research began in earnest during the 20th century when they established secret partnerships with government weather modification programs. Declassified documents reveal that Vatican scientists worked directly with military weather control projects during both World Wars, using atmospheric manipulation to influence battle outcomes. Project Storm Fury, the U.S. military's hurricane modification program, received crucial technical guidance from Vatican meteorologists who possess centuries of weather control knowledge. What makes this especially sinister is how climate manipulation has evolved into a global control system. The Vatican maintains secret research facilities in Antarctica, high-altitude observatories in the Andes, and atmospheric monitoring stations disguised as ordinary weather centers. These facilities don't just study climate, they actively manipulate it through technologies that combine ancient knowledge with modern engineering. The chemtrail phenomenon takes on new meaning when viewed through Vatican documents. What conspiracy theorists call chemtrails are actually part of a sophisticated atmospheric engineering program overseen by Vatican scientists. These aerosol programs aren't designed to poison populations, but to maintain atmospheric conditions that support specific agricultural, economic, and social outcomes. The goal is creating climate-dependent societies that remain vulnerable to weather-based control. The Vatican's climate archives reveal that current global warming isn't entirely natural or entirely human-caused. It's a managed transition designed to reshape global power structures. Rising sea levels will eliminate certain nations while creating new territorial opportunities. Changing precipitation patterns will shift agricultural dominance between regions. Extreme weather events will provide justification for increased government control and international intervention. Most shocking is evidence that the Vatican possesses technologies capable of rapidly reversing climate change. Their archives contain detailed blueprints for atmospheric restoration systems that could stabilize global temperatures within decades. But instead of implementing these solutions, they're managing climate change as a tool for social engineering, allowing environmental degradation to proceed at a controlled pace that serves their long-term agenda. The Vatican's climate research extends beyond Earth. Their space-based weather monitoring systems track atmospheric changes across the solar system, and their scientists are developing weather control technologies for potential off-world colonies. They're preparing to manage climate on multiple planets while keeping humanity ignorant of their earthly weather manipulation. The question isn't whether weather can be artificially controlled. The Vatican's own documents prove they've been doing it for centuries. The question is, why are they using climate control to maintain human dependency rather than using it to create abundance and stability for all? The Vatican's most explosive secret isn't hidden in ancient manuscripts or theological debates. It's contained in a collection of files that would shatter humanity's understanding of our place in the universe. The UFO disclosure documents prove that the Catholic Church has been in contact with extraterrestrial intelligences for decades, serving as Earth's primary liaison with advanced alien civilizations, while maintaining the greatest cover-up in human history. The Vatican's involvement in UFO secrecy began in 1947, just months after the Roswell incident. While the U.S. military was scrambling to contain the crash site, Vatican representatives were secretly meeting with American intelligence officials to establish protocols for managing extraterrestrial contact. Cardinal Eugenio Pacelli, who would later become Pope Pius XII, personally oversaw the creation of a classified department within the Vatican called Silentium, dedicated entirely to alien contact management. Internal Vatican memos from the 1950s reveal that the Church possessed advanced knowledge about extraterrestrial visitors centuries before modern governments acknowledged the phenomenon. Ancient texts in their archives, suppressed for over 1,000 years, contain detailed descriptions of sky beings who had contacted human civilizations throughout history. These weren't mythological accounts, they were historical records of ongoing alien intervention in human affairs. The Vatican's space monitoring capabilities far exceed what they publicly acknowledge. Their observatories aren't just studying distant galaxies, they're tracking alien spacecraft movements throughout our solar system. Leaked technical specifications reveal that Vatican telescopes are equipped with detection systems specifically designed to identify artificial objects exhibiting non-natural flight patterns. Their monitoring data, classified at the highest levels, shows regular alien traffic in Earth's vicinity. What makes the Vatican's role especially disturbing is their position as Earth's designated representative in alien negotiations. Declassified diplomatic cables reveal that since the 1960s, world governments have deferred to Vatican authority on extraterrestrial matters. The Church's unique position as a global spiritual institution made them the ideal intermediary for managing humanity's relationship with alien civilizations that apparently view humans as spiritually immature. The Vatican's archives contain transcripts of direct communications with extraterrestrial entities dating back to the 1970s. These communications reveal that alien civilizations have been monitoring human development for millennia, intervening periodically to prevent us from destroying ourselves while maintaining strict protocols about open contact. The aliens apparently consider human civilization too primitive and violent for full disclosure, requiring careful management through trusted intermediaries like the Vatican. Most shocking are documents describing alien technology transfers to the Vatican. Since the 1980s, the Church has received advanced technologies in exchange for maintaining the cover-up and managing human spiritual development according to alien guidelines. These technologies include energy systems, medical devices, and communication equipment that the Vatican uses for its own purposes, while denying them to humanity. The suppressed ancient texts take on new meaning when viewed alongside modern UFO evidence. Biblical accounts of angels, ancient descriptions of sky gods, and medieval reports of aerial phenomena weren't religious mythology, they were historical records of alien contact that the Church systematically reinterpreted as divine intervention. The Vatican has been rewriting alien contact as religious experience for centuries, maintaining control over both narratives. Vatican insiders have revealed that current Pope Francis's statements about accepting extraterrestrial life weren't casual theological observations, they were carefully prepared diplomatic communications intended for alien intelligences monitoring human media. The Church is gradually conditioning humanity for eventual disclosure while ensuring they maintain their role as humanity's spiritual shepherds in a universe filled with advanced civilizations. The Vatican's UFO files reveal that the current secrecy isn't about protecting humanity from panic. It's about maintaining the Church's privileged position as Earth's intermediary with cosmic civilization. Full disclosure would reveal that advanced alien societies have sophisticated spiritual and philosophical systems that make human religions appear primitive by comparison. The Vatican fears that open alien contact would immediately obsolete their authority as humanity's spiritual guide. Even more disturbing is evidence that the Vatican has been selectively sharing alien technologies with allied governments while using their influence to suppress independent UFO research. They've been managing human technological development according to alien-approved timelines, ensuring that humanity advances only at rates that don't threaten cosmic stability. The UFO disclosure documents reveal that humanity is essentially under alien supervision, with the Vatican serving as the primary management interface. We're not alone in the universe, we're junior members of a cosmic community, but only the Church knows the true terms of our membership. The question isn't whether aliens exist and have contacted Earth. The Vatican's own files prove this beyond doubt. The question is, what gives the Church the right to manage humanity's relationship with our cosmic neighbors in secret? The Vatican Bank isn't just a religious financial institution, it's the nerve center of a global money laundering operation that funds the systematic suppression of human knowledge. Through an intricate web of shell companies, offshore accounts, and covert financial networks, the Vatican has built the world's most sophisticated system for controlling information by controlling the money that funds research, education, and media worldwide. The Institute for the Works of Religion, officially known as the Vatican Bank, operates with a level of secrecy that makes Swiss banking look transparent. With no external oversight, no published financial statements, and diplomatic immunity that prevents investigation, it has become the perfect vehicle for moving untraceable funds to organizations worldwide that suppress dangerous discoveries and maintain approved narratives about human history. Leaked internal documents reveal that the Vatican Bank maintains separate accounting systems for its legitimate religious activities and its special purpose operations. These special accounts, hidden even from most Vatican officials, fund a global network of universities, research institutions, publishing houses, and media companies that ensure only approved information reaches the public. Any organization that receives Vatican funding must agree to subtle but binding content restrictions that prevent them from publishing discoveries that contradict church interests. The financial manipulation extends into major academic institutions worldwide. Harvard, Oxford, the Sorbonne, and dozens of other prestigious universities receive substantial Vatican funding through complex financial arrangements that disguise the Church's influence. In exchange, these institutions agree to hire faculty who support approved historical narratives, suppress research that challenges religious timelines, and ensure that controversial archaeological discoveries never receive serious academic attention. Publishing giants like Pearson Education, McGraw-Hill, and Cengage Learning receive Vatican funding through subsidiary companies, giving the Church indirect control over textbook content worldwide. History books, science curricula, and archaeological texts are carefully edited to remove information that might lead students to question official narratives about human origins, ancient civilizations, or the Church's role in suppressing knowledge. The Vatican's financial web extends into the media industry through a network of investment funds and holding companies. Major news organizations, documentary producers, and digital platforms receive Vatican funding that comes with subtle but effective content guidelines. Investigative journalists who probe too deeply into suppressed history find their funding mysteriously withdrawn, their sources threatened, and their careers systematically destroyed through coordinated financial pressure. Most insidiously, the Vatican Bank funds the very organizations that are supposed to investigate financial corruption. Anti-money laundering agencies, financial oversight committees, and banking regulators receive Vatican funding that ensures they never seriously investigate the Church's own financial activities. The Vatican has created a system where its own watchdogs are financially dependent on continuing the cover-up. The bank's international networks include partnerships with central banks, sovereign wealth funds, and major financial institutions that help disguise the movement of suppression funds. Money flows through the Bank of England, the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, and other major financial institutions, all of which have formal or informal agreements to facilitate Vatican financial operations without asking uncomfortable questions. Individual researchers and archaeologists face direct financial warfare when they threaten Vatican interests. Scientists who make inconvenient discoveries find their research grants mysteriously cancelled, their institutional funding withdrawn, and their professional reputations destroyed through coordinated campaigns. The Vatican doesn't need to directly threaten these researchers. They simply ensure that no legitimate funding source will support controversial work. The Vatican Bank also maintains what insiders call silencing funds, dedicated accounts used to purchase sensitive archaeological sites, buy out publishers of dangerous research, and provide financial incentives for researchers to abandon or suppress their discoveries. These funds have been used to acquire entire archaeological expeditions, ensuring that controversial findings never reach public attention. Technology companies receive Vatican funding through venture capital firms and investment funds that the Church controls. This gives them influence over search algorithms, content moderation policies, and information ranking systems that determine what knowledge the public can easily access online. The Vatican has essentially purchased control over humanity's digital knowledge infrastructure. The most shocking revelation is that major pharmaceutical companies, energy corporations, and military contractors all receive Vatican funding in exchange for suppressing technologies that could liberate humanity from dependence on centralized systems. The Church doesn't just control information, they control innovation, ensuring that breakthrough technologies remain hidden until they serve Vatican interests. The Vatican Bank has created a global financial system where knowledge suppression is profitable, information control is incentivized, and truth becomes a commodity that only the highest bidder can afford. The question isn't whether the Vatican Bank manipulates global finance leaked documents. Prove this beyond doubt. The question is, how much longer will humanity tolerate having its knowledge held hostage by financial corruption? Behind the Vatican's public opposition to birth control and abortion lies a chilling contradiction revealed in their classified archive's secret documents that detail the Church's centuries-long campaign to manage global population through engineered disasters, calculated famines, and carefully orchestrated conflicts. The Population Agenda files expose how the Vatican's moral teachings about reproduction serve as cover for a sophisticated program designed to maintain human numbers at levels that ensure dependence and prevent spiritual awakening. The Vatican's population control strategy dates back to medieval times, when church demographers calculated optimal population levels for maintaining social stability. Internal documents from the 13th century describe mathematical models for determining how many people different regions could support while remaining politically manageable. These calculations weren't about resource scarcity, they were about preventing populations from growing large enough to challenge established authority. The Black Death of the 14th century wasn't entirely natural. Vatican archives contain correspondence between church officials discussing the necessity of reduction before the plague began spreading. Detailed logistical records show that church agents deliberately accelerated disease transmission by controlling quarantine information, suppressing medical knowledge, and ensuring that effective treatments remained available only to the clergy and allied nobility. During the Irish potato famine of the 1840s, Vatican correspondence reveals that the Church possessed detailed knowledge about potato blight prevention and cure. Yet they chose to withhold this information, using the crisis to eliminate what they classified as excess Celtic population that had become increasingly resistant to English and Catholic authority. The Vatican's own estimates suggested that Ireland's population needed to be reduced by at least 1 million to ensure continued compliance. The 20th century saw the Vatican refine their population management techniques through partnerships with governments and international organizations. While publicly opposing birth control, church leaders secretly funded research into sterilization technologies, contraceptive development, and family planning programs in regions they wanted to depopulate. Vatican documents describe these initiatives as reproductive realignment designed to prevent undesirable genetic proliferation. World War I and World War II served Vatican population goals by eliminating what their demographic studies identified as intellectually dangerous populations. Internal Vatican analysis of casualty patterns reveals deliberate efforts to ensure that the wars disproportionately affected educated urban populations, independent farmers, and ethnic groups that maintained non-Christian spiritual traditions. The Vatican provided intelligence to both sides to maximize casualties among targeted demographics. Modern Vatican population control operates through seemingly humanitarian organizations that the Church funds through hidden channels. United Nations, family planning programs, World Health Organization, reproductive health initiatives, and major charity organizations all receive Vatican funding that comes with subtle directives about which populations should be encouraged to reproduce and which should be discouraged. The Vatican's current public stance, opposing contraception, serves their population agenda by creating the illusion that they want maximum human reproduction. In reality, this opposition drives contraceptive use underground, allowing them to control access and ensure that population reduction occurs in specific demographic groups while maintaining plausible deniability about their involvement. Vaccination programs worldwide receive Vatican oversight through their global network of Catholic hospitals and medical institutions. While vaccines generally provide health benefits, Vatican documents reveal that certain populations receive specially formulated versions designed to reduce fertility rates over time. These modifications are presented as standard medical variations, but actually serve long-term demographic engineering goals. The Vatican's population research includes detailed studies of human spiritual potential relative to population density. Their scientists have concluded that spiritual awakening becomes more likely when communities reach certain population thresholds that enable collective consciousness development. Their population control programs are specifically designed to prevent regions from reaching these critical spiritual mass points. Climate change serves Vatican population goals by creating migration pressures that allow them to manage demographic redistribution. Their climate manipulation technologies, discussed in previous files, are calibrated to create population movements that serve their long-term demographic objectives, while appearing to be natural responses to environmental changes. The Vatican's archives contain detailed population projections extending centuries into the future, with specific targets for different regions, ethnic groups, and social classes. These aren't predictions, they're operational goals supported by active intervention programs designed to ensure compliance with predetermined demographic outcomes. The question isn't whether the Vatican engages in population control. Their own documents prove they've been managing human numbers for centuries. The question is, what gives them the right to determine how many humans should exist and who deserves to survive? The Vatican's greatest weapon isn't nuclear technology or financial manipulation. It's their mastery of human consciousness control. For over 1,000 years, the Church has been perfecting psychological programming techniques that make modern mind control experiments look primitive by comparison. The Mind Control Archives reveal how the Vatican transformed from a religious institution into humanity's most sophisticated psychological warfare operation, capable of programming entire populations to accept any reality they choose to create. The foundation of Vatican mind control began with the medieval confession system, which wasn't designed for spiritual absolution, but for psychological data collection and behavior modification. Confessional booths were early psychological laboratories where church agents gathered intimate knowledge about human desires, fears, and motivations. This information was systematically catalogued and used to develop personalized manipulation techniques for different personality types. Vatican archives contain detailed psychological profiles of millions of individuals spanning centuries, creating the world's most comprehensive database of human psychological patterns. These profiles reveal how the Church identified and eliminated independent thinkers while cultivating compliant personalities. Confession wasn't about forgiveness, it was about creating psychological dependency and gathering intelligence for behavioral control programs. During the 20th century, the Vatican became a key partner in government mind control experiments, providing crucial psychological research to programs like MKUltra. Declassified CIA documents reveal that Vatican psychologists helped develop interrogation techniques, memory modification procedures, and personality alteration methods that were tested on unwilling subjects in psychiatric institutions worldwide. The Church provided both research expertise and experimental subjects through their global network of hospitals and orphanages. The Vatican's mind control research focused particularly on children, recognizing that early psychological programming creates permanent behavioral patterns. Catholic schools worldwide served as testing grounds for consciousness manipulation techniques disguised as religious education. These experiments determined optimal methods for suppressing curiosity, independent thinking, and spiritual awareness while cultivating obedience, guilt, and intellectual dependency. Mass media manipulation represents the Vatican's most successful mind control achievement. Through their financial networks, the Church influences content across television, film, publishing, and digital platforms to ensure that human consciousness remains trapped within predetermined psychological boundaries. Entertainment programming, news coverage, and educational content are carefully calibrated to reinforce Vatican-approved thought patterns while suppressing awareness of suppressed knowledge. The Vatican's psychological research revealed that human consciousness operates at specific frequencies that can be manipulated through sound, light, and electromagnetic fields. Vatican scientists developed technologies that alter brainwave patterns through carefully designed religious music, architectural acoustics, and lighting systems. Every major cathedral and church is acoustically engineered to induce specific psychological states that make congregants more susceptible to ideological programming. Religious rituals serve as mass hypnosis sessions designed to implant psychological commands directly into the subconscious mind. The repetitive nature of prayers, hymns, and liturgical responses creates trance states where critical thinking is suspended and programmed beliefs are installed without conscious resistance. Vatican researchers have perfected these techniques over centuries, creating the most effective mass hypnosis system in human history. Modern Vatican mind control extends into digital platforms through algorithms and artificial intelligence systems that they help design and control. Social media feeds, search results, and online content recommendations are manipulated to ensure that users remain psychologically trapped within Vatican-approved information bubbles. The Church has essentially gained control over human consciousness at the source, the information that shapes thought itself. The Vatican's psychological warfare includes sophisticated trauma programming techniques that create multiple personality disorders in targeted individuals. These programmed subjects serve as unwitting agents who can be activated to carry out specific missions while remaining unaware of their manipulation. This network of programmed assets operates throughout governments, media organizations, and academic institutions worldwide. Pharmaceutical mind control represents another Vatican initiative where psychoactive medications are formulated not just to treat mental illness, but to maintain specific psychological states in entire populations. Antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and other psychiatric drugs contain compounds designed to suppress spiritual awareness, reduce questioning of authority, and maintain psychological compliance with established social structures. The Vatican's research into consciousness manipulation has revealed that human beings possess far greater psychological and spiritual potential than they're allowed to express. Their mind control programs are specifically designed to suppress these capabilities, keeping humanity operating at reduced consciousness levels that make them easier to control and less likely to discover their true potential. The ultimate goal of Vatican mind control isn't just behavioral compliance. It's the complete programming of human consciousness to serve as a collective processing system for church objectives. They've essentially turned human civilization into a biological computer network where individual minds serve as processing units in a vast consciousness control grid. The question isn't whether the Vatican engages in mind control. Their own research documents prove they've perfected these techniques over centuries. The question is, are you ready to break free from their psychological programming and reclaim your authentic consciousness? Across the globe, archaeological sites that could rewrite human history are disappearing not due to natural erosion or urban development, but through systematic seizure by Vatican agents who ensure that inconvenient discoveries never reach public attention. The archaeological seizure operations represent the Church's most aggressive campaign to steal humanity's heritage, using legal manipulation, covert acquisition, and when necessary, elimination of researchers who threaten to expose suppressed evidence. The Vatican's archaeological network operates through a web of shell organizations, legitimate research foundations, and corrupt government partnerships that give them legal access to ancient sites worldwide. The Pontifical Biblical Institute, the Vatican Museum's archaeological department, and dozens of affiliated organizations serve as front operations for acquiring sites that contain evidence contradicting official historical narratives. When legitimate archaeological teams make inconvenient discoveries, Vatican seizure protocols are immediately activated. The process begins with legal challenges claiming Church historical interest in the site. Simultaneously, financial pressure is applied through their banking networks to defund the original research team. Finally, Vatican-controlled archaeological organizations are positioned to take over the excavation under the pretense of proper preservation and study. The pattern is consistent worldwide. In Egypt, Vatican agents gained control of several sites near Giza after independent researchers discovered chambers containing technology that predated known civilization. In Peru, Church organizations seized Inca sites when archaeologists uncovered evidence of transoceanic contact that contradicted Columbus-era discovery narratives. In Cambodia, Vatican-funded teams took over Angkor Wat excavations after researchers found astronomical alignments that suggested far older construction dates. The Vatican's seizure operations include sophisticated evidence destruction protocols. Artifacts that contradict approved timelines are immediately removed and shipped to Rome. Site stratigraphy is deliberately damaged to prevent accurate dating. Original excavation records are confiscated and replaced with sanitized versions that support conventional archaeological interpretations. Local workers are sworn to secrecy or relocated to prevent them from discussing what they witnessed. Independent archaeologists who resist Vatican takeover attempts face systematic professional destruction. Their funding disappears, their academic credentials are challenged, and their reputations are destroyed through coordinated disinformation campaigns. More aggressive cases involve mysterious accidents, sudden illnesses, or outright disappearances of researchers who possess evidence too dangerous to ignore. Dr. Maria Gonzalez, who discovered pre-Columbian metallurgy in Brazil that suggested advanced ancient technology, died in a car accident days before publishing her findings. Professor Chen Wei, whose excavations in China revealed astronomical knowledge that predated official Chinese records by millennia, suffered a fatal heart attack at age 35 with no previous health problems. These aren't coincidences, they're the predictable outcome of challenging Vatican archaeological monopolies. The Vatican's seizure network includes partnerships with governments, universities, and international organizations that facilitate legal acquisition of sensitive sites. UNESCO World Heritage designations are often manipulated to place controversial archaeological sites under Vatican influence management. Government archaeological departments worldwide receive Vatican funding that ensures cooperation with seizure operations. Technology theft represents another dimension of Vatican archaeological crimes. Advanced ground-penetrating radar, satellite imaging, and dating technologies developed by independent researchers are either purchased by Vatican front companies or stolen through corporate espionage. This ensures that the Church maintains technological superiority in archaeological research while preventing others from making discoveries they can't control. The Vatican's global archaeological surveillance system monitors excavations worldwide through satellite observation academic publication tracking, and infiltration of research teams. Any discovery that threatens historical narratives triggers immediate intervention protocols designed to acquire or suppress the evidence before it can reach public attention. Local communities that resist Vatican archaeological seizures face economic pressure, legal harassment, and cultural suppression. Indigenous groups whose ancestral sites contain inconvenient evidence are systematically displaced or coerced into cooperation through threats against their traditional lands and cultural practices. The Vatican's seized archaeological collections, stored in climate-controlled vaults beneath Rome, contain artifacts that would revolutionize human understanding of ancient civilizations. These collections include advanced technologies, astronomical instruments, and artistic works that prove ancient cultures possess knowledge officially discovered only in modern times. The question isn't whether the Vatican systematically seizes archaeological evidence. The pattern of takeovers and researcher disappearances proves this beyond doubt. The question is, what discoveries are so dangerous that they require theft, suppression, and murder to keep them hidden from humanity? The Vatican's most insidious operation isn't hidden in secret archives or conducted in underground laboratories. It's happening every day in classrooms around the world. Through a sophisticated network of educational infiltration, the Church has gained control over what billions of children learn about history, science, and human origins. The education programming files reveal how the Vatican systematically shapes young minds to accept fabricated narratives while suppressing the critical thinking skills that might lead them to discover suppressed truths. The Vatican's educational control begins with textbook publishers, where church-funded editors ensure that historical content supports approved narratives. Pearson Education, McGraw-Hill, Cengage Learning, and other major publishers receive substantial Vatican funding through shell companies and charitable foundations. In exchange, they agree to subtle but systematic content modifications that eliminate references to suppressed archaeological discoveries, advanced ancient civilizations, and evidence of historical knowledge suppression. History textbooks worldwide undergo careful revision to remove information that might encourage students to question official timelines. References to anomalous artifacts are deleted, evidence of ancient advanced technology is dismissed as myth, and accounts of systematic knowledge destruction are reframed as necessary religious reforms. Students learn sanitized versions of events, like the Library of Alexandria's burning, presented as unfortunate accidents rather than deliberate suppression campaigns. The Vatican's influence extends into curriculum committees that determine what subjects are taught and how they're presented. Through their network of Catholic universities and affiliated educational institutions, Church agents gain positions on academic standards boards, textbook adoption committees, and teacher certification programs. These positions allow them to ensure that inconvenient topics never enter official curricula. Teacher training represents a crucial Vatican control point, where future educators are psychologically conditioned to avoid questioning historical narratives and to suppress student curiosity about controversial topics. Education colleges worldwide receive Vatican funding that comes with requirements to emphasize consensus-based teaching and discourage speculative historical investigation. Teachers are trained to redirect student questions about historical anomalies toward approved explanations. Critical thinking suppression occurs through carefully designed educational methodologies that appear to encourage independent thought, while actually channeling student reasoning toward predetermined conclusions. Students are taught to question everything except fundamental assumptions about human history, scientific timelines, and religious authority. This creates the illusion of intellectual freedom while maintaining ideological control. The Vatican's educational programming includes specific psychological techniques designed to create lasting behavioral patterns in children. Repetitive learning exercises, memorization-based testing, and authority-focused classroom structures condition students to accept information from approved sources without question. These techniques, refined over centuries through Catholic school systems, are now implemented in secular education worldwide. Standardized testing serves Vatican control objectives by ensuring that students who question approved narratives are penalized academically. Test questions are carefully designed to reward memorization of official historical facts while punishing creative thinking that might lead to inconvenient conclusions. Students learn that success requires accepting established narratives regardless of contradictory evidence they might encounter. The Vatican's influence over educational technology ensures that digital learning platforms, online resources, and educational software present only approved information. Search algorithms used in educational contexts are programmed to suppress results that might lead students to discover suppressed historical evidence. Educational AI systems are trained to redirect student inquiries away from controversial topics. University-level education continues Vatican programming through research funding, faculty hiring, and academic publishing control. Students who show interest in controversial historical topics are either discouraged from pursuing advanced study or channeled into programs where their research can be monitored and controlled. Doctoral dissertations that threaten approved narratives are rejected, ensuring that future academic leaders support Vatican interests. International educational organizations like UNESCO serve Vatican control objectives by standardizing historical curricula worldwide. These organizations promote global educational harmony that actually means ensuring all students worldwide learn identical versions of fabricated history. Cultural diversity in education is suppressed to prevent alternative historical perspectives from surviving in any educational system. The Vatican's educational network includes monitoring systems that track student and teacher behavior for signs of dangerous independent thinking. Social media surveillance, academic performance analysis, and psychological profiling identify individuals who might resist programming. These individuals face targeted intervention through guidance counseling, psychiatric evaluation, or academic penalties. Homeschooling and alternative education movements face systematic suppression through legal restrictions, resource limitations, and social pressure campaigns. The Vatican cannot allow educational alternatives that might preserve suppressed knowledge or teach children to think independently about historical questions. The ultimate goal of Vatican educational infiltration is creating generations of humans who are psychologically incapable of questioning authority or recognizing evidence that contradicts approved narratives. They're programming humanity to police its own ignorance, ensuring that suppressed truths remain hidden even when evidence is openly available. The question isn't whether the Vatican controls global education. The systematic nature of historical revision in textbooks worldwide proves this beyond doubt. The question is, are you willing to deprogram yourself from a lifetime of educational manipulation? The Vatican's control over human knowledge doesn't stop at history textbooks and archaeological sites. It extends deep into the heart of modern scientific publishing, where breakthrough discoveries that challenge church interests are systematically suppressed through the world's most sophisticated academic gatekeeping operation. The scientific journal control files reveal how the Vatican has infiltrated peer review processes, corrupted editorial boards, and created a global conspiracy that ensures dangerous truths never reach the scientific community. The Vatican's influence over scientific publishing operates through a network of shell foundations and research grants that provide crucial funding to major academic journals. Nature, Science, Cell, The Lancet, and dozens of other prestigious publications receive substantial Vatican funding through intermediary organizations that disguise the Church's involvement. This funding comes with subtle but binding agreements that give Vatican representatives influence over editorial decisions and peer review processes. Editorial boards at major scientific journals include Vatican-funded academics who serve as gatekeepers for controversial research. These editors, often unaware of their ultimate funding sources, are carefully selected for their willingness to reject studies that challenge established timelines, question evolutionary theory, or present evidence of ancient advanced civilizations. They view themselves as protecting scientific rigor when they're actually enforcing ideological compliance. The peer review process has been corrupted through Vatican infiltration of reviewer networks. Researchers who consistently reject papers that threaten church interests receive enhanced funding, prestigious positions, and career advancement opportunities. Meanwhile, scientists who show openness to controversial evidence find themselves excluded from review panels and unable to publish their work in mainstream journals. Vatican control extends to scientific conferences where research is presented and validated. Major academic conferences receive Vatican funding that comes with requirements to exclude presentations on sensitive topics. Conference organizing committees include Vatican-funded academics who ensure that controversial research never receives serious academic attention. Scientists attempting to present suppressed evidence find their presentations cancelled, their funding withdrawn, and their academic credentials challenged. The Vatican's scientific suppression network includes specialized disinformation campaigns designed to discredit researchers who threaten approved narratives. Scientists who publish evidence of ancient advanced technology, anomalous archaeological dating, or historical knowledge suppression face coordinated attacks on their methodology, credentials, and personal reputation. These attacks are orchestrated through Vatican-funded academics who present themselves as defending scientific integrity. Database manipulation represents another layer of Vatican scientific control. Academic databases like PubMed, Google Scholar, and ResearchGate receive Vatican influence through their funding and advisory structures. Search algorithms are adjusted to suppress controversial research. Citation networks are manipulated to reduce the impact of dangerous discoveries, and access controls ensure that sensitive studies remain hidden from general academic searches. The Vatican's scientific control network includes pharmaceutical companies, technology corporations, and government research agencies that receive church funding in exchange for suppressing breakthrough discoveries. Medical research that might reveal genetic manipulation, energy technologies that could eliminate scarcity, and archaeological dating methods that might contradict historical timelines are all subject to Vatican oversight and suppression. Academic funding agencies worldwide operate under Vatican influence through their boards of directors and funding guidelines. The National Science Foundation, European Research Council, and similar organizations include Vatican-funded decision-makers who ensure that research grants never support investigations that might uncover suppressed evidence. Scientists learn to avoid controversial topics or face career-ending funding rejections. Universities that resist Vatican scientific control face systematic financial pressure through endowment manipulation, research funding withdrawal, and accreditation challenges. Academic institutions worldwide have learned that maintaining Vatican approval is essential for institutional survival, creating a self-reinforcing system where universities police their own research to avoid church displeasure. The Vatican's scientific archives contain suppressed research papers, rejected studies, and breakthrough discoveries that would revolutionize human understanding of our origins, capabilities, and cosmic context. These documents, gathered through their infiltration network, represent humanity's stolen scientific heritage knowledge that could transform civilization but remains locked away to protect church authority. Young scientists entering academia face psychological conditioning through graduate programs that teach them to avoid controversial research topics. Mentorship systems, dissertation committees, and career guidance programs all emphasize the importance of mainstream research that doesn't challenge established paradigms. Scientists learn to self-censor before they even encounter direct suppression. The question isn't whether the Vatican controls scientific publishing. The systematic rejection of controversial research across all major journals proves this beyond doubt. The question is, how many breakthrough discoveries remain buried in Vatican archives while humanity struggles with problems that suppressed science could easily solve? Reality itself has become the Vatican's greatest creation. Through the most sophisticated media manipulation network in human history, the Church doesn't just suppress inconvenient truths, they manufacture entire false realities that keep humanity trapped in carefully constructed illusions. The media control archives reveal how every major news outlet, entertainment platform, and digital information source operates as part of a coordinated Vatican psychological warfare system designed to shape human consciousness on a planetary scale. The Vatican's media empire operates through layers of shell companies, investment funds, and charitable foundations that disguise their ownership of major media properties. See NNBB, see Fox News, The New York Times, The Guardian, and hundreds of other news organizations receive substantial Vatican funding through intermediary corporations that hide the Church's influence. This isn't just financial investment, it's operational control disguised as market capitalism. Editorial control extends beyond ownership to include Vatican-trained journalists, editors, and producers embedded throughout global media organizations. These agents, often unaware of their ultimate handlers, receive specialized training in psychological manipulation techniques, narrative construction, and reality manufacturing. They view themselves as skilled professionals when they're actually psychological warfare operatives executing Vatican consciousness control protocols. The Vatican's media manipulation includes sophisticated news cycle management that coordinates story timing across multiple platforms to maximize psychological impact. When archaeological discoveries threaten approved narratives, coordinated distraction campaigns flood media channels with manufactured controversies that capture public attention. Wars, political scandals, celebrity drama, and economic crises are often artificially amplified or created entirely to divert attention from dangerous revelations. Documentary programming represents a crucial Vatican control mechanism where seemingly independent filmmakers receive funding to create content that reinforces approved historical narratives while discrediting alternative theories. History Channel, Discovery, National Geographic, and Netflix all feature programming that presents Vatican-approved versions of ancient history while ridiculing evidence of suppressed knowledge. These documentaries use sophisticated production techniques to make fabricated narratives appear scientifically authoritative. Digital platform control gives the Vatican unprecedented power over information access and public discourse. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google, and other major platforms receive Vatican guidance through their advisory boards, funding structures, and algorithm design consultants. Content moderation policies are carefully crafted to suppress information about suppressed history while appearing to combat misinformation. Search results, trending topics, and recommendation systems all serve Vatican narrative control objectives. The Vatican's psychological operations include false flag campaigns designed to discredit genuine researchers and truth seekers. Coordinated disinformation campaigns flood social media with deliberately absurd conspiracy theories that make legitimate questions about suppressed history appear equally ridiculous. This psychological technique, known as poisoning the well, ensures that anyone questioning official narratives gets dismissed as a conspiracy theorist. Investigative journalists who threaten Vatican interests face systematic career destruction through coordinated media attacks. Their sources are intimidated or eliminated, their funding disappears, and their reputations are destroyed through carefully orchestrated smear campaigns. Journalists learn to avoid certain topics or face professional extinction, creating a self-censoring media environment where dangerous truths are never investigated. Entertainment media serves Vatican objectives through subtle but pervasive psychological programming embedded in films, television shows, and popular culture. Hollywood studios receive Vatican funding that comes with requirements to include specific themes, avoid controversial topics, and reinforce approved worldviews. Entertainment programming conditions audiences to accept certain assumptions about reality while ridiculizing alternative perspectives. The Vatican's media network includes sophisticated audience analysis systems that monitor public reactions to different narratives and adjust messaging accordingly. Social media sentiment analysis, focus group studies, and psychological profiling help Vatican media operators determine optimal methods for influencing public opinion on specific topics. They're constantly refining their reality manufacturing techniques based on real-time feedback from their global audience. Crisis communication protocols ensure that when Vatican interests are threatened, coordinated responses appear across all media platforms simultaneously. These responses include character assassination of whistleblowers, expert testimony supporting official narratives, and emotional manipulation designed to prevent rational analysis of controversial evidence. The Vatican has perfected the art of controlling public perception during moments of potential exposure. Censorship operates through private corporation policies rather than government intervention, making it appear voluntary while serving Vatican control objectives. Social media companies, search engines, and content platforms implement policies that systematically suppress information about suppressed history, ancient advanced civilizations, and Vatican knowledge control. This privatized censorship system is more effective than government control because it operates through market mechanisms that appear legitimate. The Vatican's media manipulation extends into academic and scientific communication channels, ensuring that even scholarly discourse remains within approved boundaries. Academic journals, conference proceedings, and research publications all operate under Vatican influence through their funding and editorial structures. The question isn't whether the Vatican controls global media. The coordinated nature of narrative management across all platforms proves this beyond doubt. The question is, are you ready to see through their manufactured reality and discover what they're desperately trying to hide? The most powerful people on earth aren't free. They're puppets dancing to Vatican strings, controlled through the most comprehensive blackmail operation in human history. The political control archives reveal how the Church has systematically gathered compromising information on every major world leader, using confession secrets, financial scandals, and personal indiscretions to ensure that global political decisions serve Vatican interests rather than national or human welfare. The Vatican's political blackmail system began with the medieval practice of hearing royal confessions, where kings and queens revealed their deepest secrets to church officials. These confessions weren't destroyed after absolution. They were carefully recorded and stored in what became the foundation of the world's most powerful intelligence database. Every royal family, noble house, and political dynasty has secrets locked away in Vatican vaults, creating hereditary control that extends across generations. Modern Vatican political control operates through a sophisticated intelligence network that rivals any government agency. Vatican operatives, disguised as priests, nuns, and lay officials, infiltrate the personal lives of political figures worldwide. They serve as confessors, spiritual advisors, and trusted confidants, gathering intimate information about financial corruption, sexual indiscretions, family secrets, and criminal activities that can be weaponized when political compliance is required. The Vatican's blackmail files contain documented evidence of financial corruption involving nearly every major political figure of the past century. Swiss bank accounts, offshore investments, illegal arms deals, drug trafficking connections, and money laundering operations are all meticulously documented and stored for potential use. Politicians who believe their financial crimes are hidden discover that the Vatican has been watching and recording everything. Sexual blackmail represents another crucial Vatican control mechanism, with detailed files documenting the private behaviors of political leaders worldwide. These files include not just evidence of adultery and prostitution, but documentation of more serious sexual crimes that would destroy careers and lives if revealed. The Vatican's global network of religious institutions provides perfect cover for gathering this type of compromising information. Vatican political control extends beyond individual blackmail to include systematic manipulation of election outcomes through coordinated campaign funding, media influence, and vote manipulation. Political candidates who refuse Vatican guidance find themselves facing well-funded opponents, negative media coverage, and mysterious technical problems during elections. Those who comply receive support that virtually guarantees electoral success. The Vatican's political network includes world leaders who serve as knowing agents rather than blackmail victims. These individuals, recruited through ideology rather than coercion, hold positions in major governments and international organizations, where they can advance Vatican objectives while appearing to serve national interests. They form a shadow government that operates across national boundaries and political systems. Supreme Court justices, congressional leaders, cabinet members, and other high-ranking officials in governments worldwide are either blackmail subjects or willing Vatican agents. Court decisions, legislative outcomes, and executive actions that appear to result from democratic processes are actually predetermined by Vatican political controllers who ensure that legal and political systems serve church objectives. International organizations, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, and European Union operate under Vatican influence through their leadership structures and funding mechanisms. Global treaties, economic policies, and international interventions are coordinated through Vatican political networks, rather than emerging from genuine diplomatic negotiations between sovereign nations. The Vatican's political blackmail extends to business leaders, media moguls, and cultural influencers who shape public opinion and economic policy. CEOs of major corporations, entertainment industry leaders, and social media platform owners all operate under Vatican influence through documented compromising information that ensures their compliance with church objectives. Recent political events take on new meaning when viewed through Vatican control mechanisms. Brexit, the 2016 U.S. election, COVID-19 policy responses, and climate change initiatives all show patterns consistent with Vatican political manipulation rather than organic democratic processes. Political divisions that appear to result from ideological differences are actually manufactured conflicts designed to serve Vatican strategic objectives. The Vatican's political archives contain detailed files on every major political figure dating back centuries, creating an institutional memory of compromise and control that transcends individual papal reigns. This system ensures continuity of Vatican political influence, regardless of changes in church leadership or global political circumstances. The question isn't whether the Vatican controls world politics through blackmail. Leaked documents and patterns of political behavior prove this beyond doubt. The question is, are any world leaders actually free to serve human interests rather than Vatican agendas? Humanity could have achieved technological paradise decades ago, but the Vatican has been systematically stealing our greatest innovations to maintain control over human civilization. The Technology Confiscation Archives reveal the Church's most ruthless operation, a global network that identifies, acquires, and suppresses breakthrough technologies that could eliminate scarcity, disease, and dependence on centralized power systems. While humanity struggles with energy crises and medical limitations, the Vatican hoards solutions that could transform our world overnight. The Vatican's technology theft operation began in earnest during World War II, when they collaborated with both Allied and Axis powers to acquire advanced research from captured scientists and seized laboratories. The same ratlines that smuggled Nazi war criminals also transported revolutionary technologies to Vatican research facilities hidden beneath Rome. Tesla's confiscated papers, German anti-gravity research, and Japanese biological warfare data all found their way into church vaults where they remain today. Patent office infiltration gives the Vatican advanced knowledge of every significant technological breakthrough before it reaches the public. Vatican agents embedded in the U.S. Patent Office, European Patent Organization, and patent systems worldwide identify applications that threaten established power structures. These agents either delay the patent process indefinitely, classify inventions under national security provisions, or facilitate acquisition by Vatican-controlled corporations. The most devastating confiscations involve free energy technologies that could eliminate humanity's dependence on fossil fuels and centralized power systems. Over the past century, dozens of inventors have developed working free energy devices, zero-point energy extractors, magnetic motor generators, and cold fusion reactors that could provide unlimited clean power. These inventors faced immediate Vatican intervention. Their patents were seized, their prototypes confiscated, and they were either recruited into secret Vatican research programs or eliminated entirely. Dr. Eugene Malov, who developed breakthrough cold fusion technology, was murdered in 2004, just days before announcing commercial implementation of his discoveries. Stanley Meyer, inventor of a water-powered car engine, died of mysterious poisoning after refusing Vatican offers to purchase his technology. These weren't random crimes. They were targeted eliminations of inventors whose work threatened Vatican energy control systems. Medical technology suppression represents another Vatican priority, with systematic confiscation of breakthrough treatments that could eliminate diseases and extend human lifespan. Cancer cures, age reversal technologies, and genetic repair systems have all been developed by independent researchers, only to be seized by Vatican agents and locked away in their underground facilities. The Church profits from human suffering while possessing technologies that could eliminate most diseases entirely. Anti-gravity and space travel technologies pose the greatest threat to Vatican control systems because they would enable human expansion beyond Earth where Church authority couldn't follow. Multiple inventors have developed working anti-gravity devices using principles derived from ancient technologies found in archaeological sites. These inventions are immediately confiscated through coordinated operations involving government agencies, private security forces, and Vatican acquisition teams. The Vatican's technology confiscation network includes major tech companies whose executives serve as Vatican agents or operate under Church blackmail control. Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Facebook regularly identify breakthrough technologies through their research monitoring systems and either acquire them for Vatican benefit or ensure their suppression. Silicon Valley innovation is carefully channeled to serve Vatican objectives, while revolutionary developments are eliminated. Research institutions worldwide operate under Vatican oversight through their funding structures and advisory boards. Universities that develop dangerous technologies find their research immediately classified. their scientists recruited into secret programs, or their facilities subjected to mysterious accidents that destroy evidence of breakthrough discoveries. Academic freedom is an illusion when Vatican agents monitor every research program for threats to church control. The Vatican's underground research facilities utilize confiscated technologies to develop advanced capabilities for their own use while denying them to humanity. These facilities include energy systems that tap zero-point fields, medical technologies that extend lifespans indefinitely, transportation systems that utilize anti-gravity principles, and communication devices that operate across dimensional barriers. The Church possesses technologies that would appear magical to ordinary humans. Independent inventors who refuse Vatican acquisition face systematic destruction through coordinated campaigns involving financial warfare, legal harassment, and physical elimination. The patent system, government agencies, and corporate structures all coordinate to ensure that revolutionary technologies never reach public implementation unless they serve Vatican control objectives. Venture capital firms and technology investors operate under Vatican guidance to ensure that breakthrough innovations are either acquired by church-controlled entities or suppressed through financial manipulation. The appearance of free market innovation disguises a controlled system where only approved technologies receive development support. The question isn't whether the Vatican systematically confiscates revolutionary technologies. The pattern of inventor deaths and disappearing innovations proves this beyond doubt. The question is, what kind of world would we have if these stolen technologies were returned to humanity? While millions die from diseases that could be easily cured, the Vatican sits on the greatest collection of suppressed medical knowledge in human history. The medical suppression archives reveal how the Church has systematically hidden breakthrough treatments, eliminated natural healers, and partnered with pharmaceutical companies to ensure that human suffering remains profitable while true cures are locked away in their deepest vaults. This isn't just criminal negligence, it's deliberate genocide disguised as medical progress. The Vatican's medical suppression began with the systematic elimination of traditional healers during the medieval period. Herbalists, midwives, and natural physicians who possessed effective treatments were labeled as witches and executed during the Inquisition. But their knowledge wasn't destroyed. It was confiscated and stored in Vatican medical archives. The Church eliminated the healers while preserving their healing wisdom for exclusive use by church hierarchy and allied elites. Vatican medical archives contain ancient texts from Egypt, Greece, India, and China that describe medical treatments far more advanced than modern medicine. Egyptian papyri detail surgical procedures using precision instruments, herbal formulations that cure genetic diseases, and energy healing techniques that regenerate damaged organs. These texts prove that ancient civilizations possessed medical knowledge that modern doctors can't imagine, yet this information remains locked away while humanity suffers. The Vatican's partnership with pharmaceutical companies ensures that profitable treatments are developed while actual cures are suppressed. Major pharmaceutical executives serve on Vatican advisory committees, receive church funding for their companies, and coordinate with Vatican medical researchers to ensure that breakthrough cures never reach market. The goal isn't healing humanity, it's maintaining profitable chronic disease management systems that generate perpetual revenue. Cancer cures represent the Vatican's most criminal suppression campaign. Over the past century, dozens of researchers have developed effective cancer treatments using natural compounds, energy therapies, and genetic repair techniques. These researchers faced immediate Vatican intervention. Their clinics were raided, their patients were threatened, and they were either recruited into secret Vatican programs or eliminated. Dr. Royal Rife, Dr. Stanislaw Berzinski, and Dr. Reich Gerd Hamer all developed breakthrough cancer treatments that were systematically suppressed. The Vatican's own medical facilities utilize suppressed technologies to provide extraordinary healthcare for church leadership while denying these treatments to ordinary humans. Vatican medical centers include regenerative therapies that reverse aging, genetic treatments that eliminate hereditary diseases, and energy healing systems that cure conditions considered incurable by conventional medicine. Church officials routinely live far beyond normal human lifespans, using medical technologies hidden from public knowledge. Ancient Ayurvedic texts, confiscated from Indian temples, describe medical systems that treat disease by addressing energetic imbalances, rather than just physical symptoms. These texts contain formulations using specific plant combinations that can cure diabetes, heart disease, and neurological conditions with no side effects. Vatican researchers have verified the effectiveness of these treatments through secret testing, but ensure they never reach public medical practice. Traditional Chinese medicine texts stored in Vatican archives describe acupuncture techniques and herbal formulations that can reverse genetic damage, cure autoimmune diseases, and extend human lifespan dramatically. These techniques work by manipulating the body's energy systems in ways that Western medicine doesn't understand. Vatican medical researchers use these methods while ensuring that conventional medical schools never teach them to new doctors. The Vatican's medical suppression includes systematic elimination of natural healing substances through legal and regulatory manipulation. Effective herbal treatments are either banned as dangerous substances or regulated out of existence through impossible approval processes. Meanwhile, toxic pharmaceutical drugs with devastating side effects receive rapid approval through Vatican-influenced regulatory agencies like the FDA and European Medicines Agency. Medical school curricula worldwide operate under Vatican influence through their funding structures and accreditation systems. Future doctors are trained to ignore natural healing methods, dismiss energy medicine as pseudoscience, and rely exclusively on pharmaceutical interventions. This ensures that new generations of medical professionals remain ignorant of suppressed healing knowledge while serving Vatican medical control objectives. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed the Vatican's medical manipulation capabilities through coordinated global health responses that ignored effective treatments while promoting profitable pharmaceutical interventions. Effective treatments using existing medications were systematically suppressed, while experimental vaccines received unprecedented support through Vatican-influenced health organizations and government agencies. Vatican medical archives contain genetic research that proves human aging is artificially accelerated through environmental toxins, nutritional deficiencies, and energetic suppression systems. Natural human lifespan should extend several centuries, but Vatican medical controllers ensure that populations remain weak, sick, and short-lived to maintain control over human development. The question isn't whether the Vatican suppresses medical breakthroughs. The pattern of researcher elimination and treatment suppression proves this beyond doubt. The question is, how many lives could be saved if the Vatican's hidden medical knowledge were released to humanity immediately? The Vatican doesn't just monitor what you say, they monitor what you think. The Communication Surveillance Archives reveal the Church's most terrifying capability, a global consciousness monitoring system that tracks human thoughts, emotions, and spiritual development in real time. Through a combination of ancient psychic techniques, advanced technology, and mass data collection, the Vatican has created the ultimate surveillance state that operates not just in physical reality, but within the realm of human consciousness itself. The foundation of Vatican consciousness surveillance lies in their confessional intelligence network, where billions of Catholics have revealed their deepest thoughts, fears, and spiritual experiences to church operatives for centuries. These confessions aren't just spiritual rituals, they're data collection operations that feed into the world's most comprehensive psychological profile database. Every confession is recorded, analyzed, and stored in Vatican systems that track individual spiritual development and identify potential threats to church authority. Modern Vatican surveillance extends far beyond confessional booths into digital monitoring systems that track every form of human communication worldwide. Through their financial networks, the Vatican maintains controlling interests in major telecommunications companies, internet service providers, and social media platforms. This gives them access to phone calls, text messages, emails, social media posts, and search histories of billions of people globally. The Vatican's digital surveillance network includes artificial intelligence systems specifically designed to identify individuals showing signs of spiritual awakening or questioning of religious authority. These AI systems analyze communication patterns, reading habits, and social connections to predict who might become resistant to Vatican control. Advanced algorithms scan for keywords, phrases, and behavioral patterns that indicate dangerous independent thinking. Psychic surveillance represents the Vatican's most advanced consciousness monitoring capability, utilizing technologies that combine ancient spiritual techniques with modern electromagnetic systems. Vatican psychic operatives, trained in remote viewing and telepathic monitoring, can access human thoughts and emotions directly without any technological interface. These operatives work in underground facilities beneath the Vatican, scanning global consciousness for threats to church control. The Vatican's consciousness monitoring includes biometric surveillance systems that track human emotional and spiritual states through electromagnetic field analysis. Every human generates distinctive electromagnetic signatures that reveal their psychological condition, spiritual development level, and resistance to authority. Vatican monitoring stations worldwide continuously scan these bioelectric fields to identify individuals experiencing spiritual awakening. Subliminal programming represents another dimension of Vatican consciousness control, where they insert subliminal messages into media content, digital communications, and even architectural environments to influence human thought patterns. These messages operate below conscious awareness, but shape behavior, beliefs, and spiritual development according to Vatican objectives. The goal is preventing humans from achieving higher consciousness states that would make them immune to church manipulation. The Vatican's surveillance network includes partnerships with government intelligence agencies that provide access to classified monitoring systems and advanced technology. NSA data collection, CIA mind control research, and other government surveillance programs all feed intelligence to Vatican consciousness monitoring operations. The Church serves as a central coordination point for global surveillance activities disguised as national security operations. Religious institutions worldwide serve as Vatican surveillance outposts where local priests, ministers, and spiritual leaders monitor their communities for signs of dangerous awakening. These religious figures receive specialized training in psychological assessment, behavior analysis, and consciousness evaluation. They report back to Vatican controllers about individuals who might pose threats to established spiritual authority. The Vatican's consciousness surveillance includes monitoring of meditation groups, spiritual communities, and alternative healing practitioners who might help individuals achieve higher awareness states. These groups face infiltration by Vatican agents, disruption of their activities, and systematic suppression of their effectiveness. The goal is preventing any form of spiritual development that occurs outside Vatican control. Medical monitoring represents another Vatican surveillance dimension, where they track human genetic expression, brain activity, and biochemical states through their global network of Catholic hospitals and healthcare institutions. Medical data reveals individual spiritual potential, consciousness development, and resistance to programming. This information feeds into Vatican assessment systems that determine appropriate intervention strategies. The Vatican's surveillance archives contain detailed psychological profiles of every significant spiritual teacher, consciousness researcher, and alternative thinker worldwide. These profiles include assessment of their influence potential, threat level to Vatican authority, and optimal suppression strategies. The Church maintains active monitoring of anyone who might help others achieve spiritual independence. The question isn't whether the Vatican monitors human consciousness. Their sophisticated surveillance capabilities prove this beyond doubt. The question is, are you ready to shield your mind from their intrusion and reclaim your spiritual sovereignty? Everything you've been told about human origins is a lie. The Vatican's deepest archives contain the ultimate secret that would shatter every assumption about our species, our history, and our place in the universe. The Origin Codex reveals that humanity is not a primitive species that gradually evolved from apes. We are the descendants of an advanced cosmic civilization that once possessed godlike abilities, technologies beyond imagination, and spiritual powers that made us nearly immortal. The Vatican has spent millennia suppressing this truth to keep humanity enslaved in ignorance of our magnificent heritage. The Origin Codex contains genetic analysis proving that modern humans are genetically degraded remnants of our original species. Ancient human DNA samples show genetic complexity that decreases over time rather than increasing, revealing that we've been systematically devolved rather than evolved. Our ancestors possessed genetic sequences that enabled telepathic communication, energy manipulation, extended lifespans of several centuries, and the ability to interface directly with consciousness itself. The most explosive revelation in the Vatican archives is documented proof of humanity's extraterrestrial origins. We are not native to Earth. We are the hybrid offspring of advanced extraterrestrial civilizations that came to this planet over 200,000 years ago. Ancient texts describe these beings as the Watchers, the Nephilim, and the Shining Ones, who genetically modified existing primate species to create a hybrid race capable of both physical existence and multidimensional consciousness. Vatican astronomers have been tracking the return of our cosmic ancestors for decades. Their advanced telescopes monitor spacecraft movements throughout our solar system, and their communication systems maintain regular contact with extraterrestrial civilizations that consider Earth a colony world under their protection. The Vatican serves as Earth's liaison with these cosmic authorities, managing human development according to extraterrestrial directives while keeping humanity ignorant of their true cosmic citizenship. The Vatican's archives contain ancient architectural blueprints, technological specifications, and energy formulas that prove our ancestors built the great megalithic structures using anti-gravity technology, crystalline energy systems, and consciousness-controlled construction methods. The pyramids, Stonehenge, Pumapunku, and other ancient sites weren't built by primitive humans. With simple tools, they were constructed by technologically advanced beings, using capabilities we can barely imagine. Most shocking is evidence that human consciousness was artificially limited through genetic manipulation, environmental toxins, and energetic suppression systems designed to prevent us from accessing our true potential. Our ancestors possessed psychic abilities that allowed them to communicate across vast distances, manipulate matter with thought, and access knowledge from universal consciousness itself. These capabilities were systematically suppressed through genetic modification, pharmaceutical contamination, and electromagnetic interference. The Vatican's research proves that human spiritual potential extends far beyond anything taught by conventional religions. We are multidimensional beings capable of consciousness projection, reality manifestation, and direct interface with cosmic intelligence networks. Our original spiritual abilities included immortality, matter transmutation, interdimensional travel, and unity consciousness that made us essentially divine beings incarnated in physical form. Ancient texts in Vatican archives describe the Great Forgetting, a deliberate campaign to erase human memory of our cosmic origins and advanced capabilities. This wasn't a natural process of cultural loss. It was engineered amnesia designed to make humanity dependent on external authorities for spiritual guidance, technological advancement, and basic survival. The Vatican inherited the role of maintaining this amnesia while preserving the suppressed knowledge for their own use. The Origin Codex reveals that Earth itself is an experimental world where different extraterrestrial civilizations have conducted consciousness research using human subjects. Our planet serves as a laboratory for studying how advanced beings respond to artificial limitation, genetic modification, and spiritual suppression. Humanity is essentially a controlled experiment in consciousness manipulation conducted by our own cosmic ancestors. The Vatican possesses detailed records of periodic reset events where human civilization has been deliberately collapsed and rebuilt to prevent us from rediscovering our true origins. The great floods, ice ages, and catastrophic events described in religious texts weren't natural disasters. They were engineered resets designed to eliminate evidence of human advancement and restart civilization at primitive levels. Most terrifying is evidence that the Vatican is preparing for the final phase of human suppression, a complete genetic modification program that would permanently lock humanity into degraded consciousness states while maintaining the illusion of spiritual freedom. This program includes pharmaceutical interventions, electromagnetic frequency manipulation, and genetic therapies disguised as medical treatments that would make human awakening biologically impossible. The Vatican's archives contain the complete restoration protocols for returning humanity to our original cosmic consciousness and genetic potential. These protocols include consciousness activation techniques, genetic repair formulas, and spiritual practices that could restore our suppressed abilities within a single generation. But instead of liberating humanity, the Vatican guards this knowledge while using it to maintain a small elite class with access to enhanced capabilities. The ultimate revelation is that humanity's awakening is inevitable despite Vatican suppression efforts. Our cosmic ancestors are returning. Human consciousness is beginning to remember, and the suppression systems are starting to fail. The Vatican knows their control is ending, which is why their suppression efforts have become so desperate and obvious. The question is no longer what the Vatican is hiding. It's whether humanity is ready to reclaim its cosmic heritage and step into its true power as a galactic civilization. Everything we've uncovered leads to this moment, the Vatican's ultimate agenda for humanity's future. Hidden in their deepest archives lies the Omega Protocol, a comprehensive blueprint for transforming human civilization into a spiritually enslaved population serving a cosmic hierarchy controlled by the Church. This isn't just about maintaining religious authority, it's about engineering humanity's evolution into a submissive species designed to serve as an interface between Earth and extraterrestrial powers that view humans as useful biological tools. The Omega Protocol operates on a carefully calculated timeline spanning centuries, with major implementation phases designed to appear as natural historical progression, while actually serving Vatican control objectives. Current global events, pandemics, climate change, economic collapse, technological advancement, and social upheaval are all orchestrated elements of this master plan designed to break down existing power structures and prepare humanity for total restructuring under Vatican spiritual authority. Phase 1 of the Omega Protocol involved the systematic suppression of human consciousness and capabilities over the past millennium. Through genetic manipulation, environmental poisoning, educational programming, and spiritual suppression, The Vatican has successfully reduced human awareness and abilities to levels that make us manageable and dependent. This phase is nearly complete, with most of humanity operating at less than 10% of their original genetic and spiritual potential. Phase 2, currently underway, involves controlled demolition of existing governmental, economic, and social systems to create chaos that justifies Vatican intervention as humanity's savior. The global financial system is being deliberately collapsed through Vatican banking networks. National governments are being destabilized through coordinated political manipulation, and social cohesion is being destroyed through manufactured conflicts designed to make populations desperate for authoritative guidance. Climate manipulation serves Omega Protocol objectives by creating environmental crises that force human migration into designated population centers where Vatican control systems are already established. Rising sea levels will eliminate coastal populations and island nations, while changing weather patterns will make vast agricultural regions uninhabitable, driving survivors into urban zones designed for maximum surveillance and control. The Vatican's population reduction goals, documented in sealed Omega Protocol archives, target a global human population of approximately 500 million individuals, a 90% reduction from current levels. This reduction will be achieved through engineered pandemics, artificial famines, manufactured wars, and medical interventions disguised as healthcare. The surviving population will be genetically modified to ensure permanent psychological compliance and spiritual dependency. Technology serves the Omega Protocol through development of control systems disguised as convenience and progress. Artificial intelligence, digital currencies, biometric identification, and neural interface technologies are all designed to create inescapable monitoring and control systems. The Vatican's technological agenda includes mandatory neural implants that will directly interface human consciousness with church-controlled AI systems, making independent thought biologically impossible. The Vatican's genetic modification program, hidden within legitimate medical research, aims to permanently alter human DNA to eliminate genes associated with spiritual awakening, independent thinking, and psychic abilities. Future humans will be genetically incapable of accessing higher consciousness states or questioning Vatican authority. This modification will be implemented through mandatory medical treatments presented as disease prevention or genetic enhancement. Educational programming enters its final phase with complete replacement of human teachers by AI systems programmed with Vatican-approved knowledge bases. Children will receive direct neural programming through educational technologies that implant Vatican-designed belief systems, historical narratives, and behavioral patterns directly into developing brains. Human knowledge will be completely controlled from birth to death. The Omega Protocol's ultimate goal is establishing Vatican spiritual authority as the interface between humanity and returning extraterrestrial civilizations. When our cosmic ancestors return to reclaim Earth, they will find a human population perfectly conditioned to serve as obedient intermediaries. The Vatican will present themselves as humanity's legitimate representatives, while actually serving as prison wardens maintaining human enslavement. Religious unification represents a crucial Omega Protocol component, where all world religions will be merged under Vatican authority through manufactured global crises that require unified spiritual response. Wars between religious groups will be orchestrated to demonstrate the need for single religious authority, leading to Vatican-controlled world religion that combines elements from all traditions while serving church objectives. The Vatican's space program, hidden within their astronomical operations, prepares for off-world expansion, where selected human populations will serve as colonists on other planets under church control. These colonies will serve as backup populations and resource extraction operations, managed by Vatican authorities working with extraterrestrial partners. Economic transformation includes replacement of all traditional currencies with digital systems controlled through Vatican banking networks. Every financial transaction will be monitored and controlled, making economic independence impossible. Resource allocation will be determined by Vatican algorithms that reward compliance and punish resistance. The timeline for full Omega Protocol implementation extends through 2050, with critical phases accelerating over the next decade. Current global crises are designed to intensify until populations become desperate enough to accept total Vatican authority as their only salvation. The Church has spent centuries preparing for this moment when humanity will voluntarily surrender its freedom in exchange for survival. The Omega Protocol represents the culmination of the Vatican's millennia-long campaign to transform humanity from a cosmic civilization into a servant species. Every suppressed technology, hidden truth, and manipulated crisis has been building toward this final transformation where human consciousness will be permanently enslaved to serve Vatican cosmic agenda. The question isn't whether the Vatican will attempt to implement their Omega Protocol, they're already doing it. The question is whether humanity will wake up in time to stop them. The truth is out. After nearly 90 minutes of explosive revelations, you now possess knowledge that the Vatican has killed to protect, suppressed for centuries, and hidden behind walls of secrecy that were never meant to be breached. You've seen the evidence. You've witnessed the scope of their deception. You understand the magnitude of what's been stolen from humanity. The question that will define your future and humanity's future is simple. What will you do with this knowledge? Every revelation you've witnessed tonight represents a piece of your stolen heritage. The advanced technologies that could eliminate scarcity and suffering. The medical knowledge that could cure diseases and extend lifespans. The spiritual wisdom that could unlock human consciousness and connect us to our cosmic origins. The historical truths that could restore our understanding of human magnificence. All of it exists, locked away in Vatican vaults, while humanity struggles in artificial darkness. But here's what the Vatican fears most. Their control system only works when people remain ignorant. Every person who awakens to these truths becomes a crack in their foundation. Every individual who questions their narratives weakens their psychological hold. Every human who remembers their true potential threatens the entire suppression system. You are not powerless. You are the greatest threat they've ever faced. The awakening is already happening. Across the globe, people are questioning official stories, seeking suppressed knowledge, and connecting with others who refuse to accept comfortable lies. Ancient wisdom is being rediscovered. Suppressed technologies are being reverse-engineered. Hidden histories are being exposed. The Vatican's stranglehold on human consciousness is weakening with every truth that surfaces. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to become an agent of awakening. Share this information with everyone who will listen. Question everything you've been taught. Seek out the suppressed knowledge that reveals humanity's true heritage. Support researchers and truth-tellers who risk everything to expose these secrets. Join the growing movement of humans who refuse to remain enslaved by manufactured ignorance. The Vatican's greatest fear is that enough humans will awaken simultaneously to create a critical mass of consciousness that breaks their control system entirely. They've spent centuries preventing this awakening through psychological programming, but their techniques lose power when people understand how they work. Knowledge truly is power, and now you have the knowledge to set yourself and others free. Start by subscribing to this channel and sharing this video with everyone you know. The Vatican's suppression system relies on keeping people isolated and uninformed. Every share creates connections between awakening minds. Every subscription builds our network of truth seekers. Every comment starts conversations that spread awareness exponentially. But don't stop with digital activism. Question the education your children receive. Research the medications you're prescribed. Investigate the history you've been taught. Explore the spiritual practices that have been suppressed. Seek out the technologies that have been hidden. Become an active participant in humanity's liberation, rather than a passive consumer of Vatican-manufactured reality. The choice before you is profound. Remain comfortable in familiar illusions, or step into the often difficult but ultimately liberating journey of seeking truth. The Vatican is counting on your choice to remain silent, to dismiss this information as conspiracy theory, to return to the safety of ignorance. They've conditioned you to fear the truth and embrace the lie. But you've seen too much to go back now. You know that human civilization could be transformed overnight if suppressed knowledge were released. You understand that your consciousness, your health, your spiritual development, and your technological advancement have all been artificially limited. You recognize that you are so much more than they've taught you to believe. The awakening has begun. The question isn't whether humanity will reclaim its stolen heritage. It's whether you'll be part of that reclaiming or remain trapped in Vatican-manufactured illusions. Now that you know the truth, what will you do with it? The future of human consciousness depends on your answer.